Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to State of the Nexus, Episode 3. Yes, I got it right this time. Didn't say State of the Game. Oh, yeah. My name is Kaelaris, here once again with the good old boys that we do have here, and we have a lot to talk about today. We have a massive PTR patch to cover, and this might take a while. So grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready. As always, we're going to give our guys the introductions they deserve. So we're going to start with Dread, then we'll go to Bakery, then we'll go to Alex.
I'm Dreadnought, caster for Heroes of the Storm now, ex-pro player from Tempo Storm, was shot caller, support player, and team captain. YouTube as well. That's probably where you guys probably know me from one of those areas, and that's about it.
So I'm Bakery. I'm the team captain and support for Team Dignitas. And we're going to Korea very soon. So I hope we can win there.
I'm AlexTheProG from Navi, and yeah, I'm the shot caller and main drafter.
All right, buddy. Very, very big thank you for joining us, Alex, on our journey through this. It's going to be a long one, to say the least, I think. We have a list of topics that we want to cover. Now, there is so much to this PTR patch. We could start talking about things like the draft system. We could start talking about all those other bits. But what we're really wanting to focus on this show, I think this is unanimous between us at the moment, is the amount of changes that have hit the heroes here. So we're going to start things off with the general talents that have been changed slightly. And when we're talking about those, we're talking about Arcane Power, Block, and Dampen Magic. From there, we're going to end up going to some of the heroes that have been slightly changed. And actually, we're going to talk about questing talents first, because that has been a hot topic. Then we're going to be talking about our heroes that have been slightly changed, and then we're going to be talking about the 5 reworks here throughout this PTR. So, boys, Arcane Power, Block, Dampen Magic, which one do we want to start with? Let's go over to Arcane Power. We have duration increase from 5 seconds to 10 seconds here. Now, this only affects Jaina and kael'thas, I believe. Is that correct, Bakery?
Yeah, those are the only 2 heroes that Arcane Power is currently on. Mm-hmm. I imagine there's probably some more in the future that they'd chuck this on, but right now it's just those 2.
I mean, it was never really taken on either of them before, was it? Unless some very crazy circumstances.
But you can't compare any level 20 to anybody who had Bolt. So it's like you had Bolt, and then you had like level 20s past that. So now that Bolt's actually been kind of separated, Arcane Power's relevance is like far higher with Jaina and kael'thas, because they don't have the option of Bolt anymore. It's pretty much like, is this relevant compared to their ult upgrades?
That's a very, very good point, actually, and something that we will end up getting on towards later when we actually get to those heroes specifically. So there is the potential here that Arcane Power has got itself a significant little increase, which is cool to see. Let's go on to Block, actually, already. Block damage reduction increased from 50% to 75%, which, for anybody taking Block, is an extremely sizable increase, right?
I think the talent right now is too strong. It will be too strong, because I think it will force players in many situations to take Block alone for the laning phase, at least in competitive play. I at least feel like being versus a guy with Block will be really, really painful in an equal matchup. I think the Block does too big of a difference.
I think not only maybe outside of the laning phase, which is something I actually hadn't considered. That's a really, really good point that you have there. For me, it actually comes down to that auto-attacking is also one of the most least relevant damage sources almost in the entire game, and it's just another step towards making it less and less viable. So I don't think that it's like a terrible approach, but with the lack of auto-attackers that exist in the game, it only hurts them even more. So.
Right.
So, yeah, as both of my co-hosts here said, like, it doesn't really make sense in terms of a direction change, because it's not like we need more auto-attack prevention or lane tools. But also, it was already picked in quite a large number of scenarios, especially in competitive. Like, we saw a lot of thralls going Block when you needed the lane presence. We saw ETCs going Block. We saw pretty much every hero that had Block going Block in some scenarios. And the fact that they've buffed it so hugely just makes no sense to me. Like, it's not like it's a talent that didn't see play. And the direction, like we mentioned, is also a bit weird. So I don't really get this change, to be honest with you.
What do you really think prompted them to actually do something like this, considering, as Dredd pointed out, that auto attacks aren't really as impactful at the moment? Do you see any particular reason?
I think it's one of those changes that they make right now that makes zero sense right now, but then 4 patches later it comes to a conclusion where you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I mean, we've seen in the past where it's like, we're just going to randomly like nerf Gazlo and we're going to like nerf Lily, and you're just like, why would you, like, you're just hitting heroes that everybody's like, why would you do this at this point? And it's like just subtle things, but then later on it comes into like a point where it's like, oh, actually that makes sense. Like auto attacking was like absurdly strong. So I think we can expect the game. Maybe, I guess that's what I hope. At least I still think it's wrong that they did it this way, but I hope that's the direction it's going, because I agree that it's just like, why? It saw competitive play. It was, and it met all levels of play too. I don't know. It just seems really out of place right now.
Another thing I dislike about it is, like Arcane Power, it's really good that it gets buffed, but a talent that's a lot of heroes have, I really dislike it to be a common choice. I think the specific hero's talent should be slightly better, instead of making Block a really strong talent.
Actually, you bring up a really good point there, because they are quite gun-ho at the moment about slowly phasing out these generic talents, but then they're giving Block this massive boost, which is quite interesting overall. I think overall we see that as a very, very strong talent moving forwards. Obviously, we'll get onto it a little bit later, and actually it's one thing that Murky has even had completely changed, because imagine the idea of a 75% block on Murky. That would be super fun. But then going on to Dampen Magic now, this is something that actually only affects Stitches currently in the game. So Dampen Magic challenges now cause all incoming ability damage to be reduced by 50% for 1 second. Is this enough of a change for him to be going for this quite often now at level 1? How do we feel about it?
I think it has... Go ahead.
Okay. I think that it will make it seem more play than before, because it got literally 0 play. But I think it's a really good change, but I'm not sure. It's only versus... Like, in my head, what I can imagine is like Muradin, Tyran, Jaina, Li Ming. But I still think that the Globe talent on Stitches is really, really broken.
Yeah, well, that's like the issue about this change for me, is because this is only on Stitches. Like, this is now a good talent. Like, before it was kind of meh, but now it's 1 second of spell shield at level 1, which is a really good talent. But in terms of only Stitches, when you want to play the tanky tank, you pick the Globe talent, because it's really, really good. And when you want to play the Bruiser, you pick the damage talent for Slam. Like, I don't see a scenario, even if you're against maybe even like Li Ming, where you would pick this talent over the Globes. But like, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's just really, really strong now. But I feel like in general, if you want to play tank, you go Globes. If you want to play damage, you go damage. Like, I don't think this has a place.
The only advantage I see from the... If you really need early game, then I could see Dampen Magic be taken. But if you want to be a really good tank mid-late game, then the Raging Globe will be better.
Yeah, it's only like against like Toronto style comps, like Alex said. That's when I see it. It's like, it's just got to be like a composition to where you can justify like the only way you lose the game if his Stitches gets blown up in 1 second, and then that's when you are going to be looking to take it. And I agree with a lot of what like Bakery and Alex both say when it comes to this talent. I think this actually might be a change for more than just Stitches. Obviously, right now it's not. I think this is kind of with the intent that it will be like implemented more. So I see, like, I agree with the argument against like it for Stitches directly. I don't know how much of an effect it has, but I don't know. I like that it's an adjustment, but I think it'll be like still not the go-to. I think once in a while, very rarely, it will see the play.
All right, well, yeah, we'll see how that ends up affecting. I mean, again, you know, there is the potential that they could introduce this to more heroes in the future. At least we'll see how that develops overall. But we can now move on to our overall idea behind something that they've introduced recently into the game with this patch, which is the questing talents. Now, eventually down the line in the show, we're going to get more involved in specific heroes questing talents, but these are basically talents now that you take a talent, right, and then you fulfill a certain objective throughout the game, i.e. killing minions, collecting globes, and then you gain yourself a bit of a buff. And then also there are power spikes also built into these buffs. And Dread, this is something that you've been quite keen on as of late in the past week or so.
Yeah, when it comes to, so the talent system, where it comes into a system where compared to like Conjurer's Pursuit, the main difference is, well, number one, it's just the main difference between the two is that one is going to be constantly scaling throughout the game without a power spike, and questing provides that kind of power spike. And it's something that I'm very fearful that the power spike is going to be into a system beyond the fact that it might take away from specific like solo queue players and promote more selfish play. There's a lot of other variables, but my biggest fear is actually in situations to where a lot of these power spikes are going to hit around that 13 tier, and that's actually, in my opinion, one of the healthiest parts about the game is that the 13 tier is a very relevant tier when it comes to team fighting, but it's not impossible to fight into if your opponent makes a very large misplay, whereas talent tiers like 16, 10, and 20 are so powerful that it's almost impossible to take a team fight into them. Obviously, a little bit composition dependent for both of those, but for the most part, that's a solid general rule, and that power spike enough because typically the team who's winning is going to be the team who completes the quest faster and then going to gain that power spike around that area, which might be enough, especially there's certain ones, I don't think this with all of them, but certain ones are very powerful and enough to kind of make it even more difficult to come back, while that 10 to 15 levels is, in my opinion, one of the healthiest sections of the game to allow for a team to make a comeback even though they've struggled in the first 10 levels.
I kind of agree with what Dredd said there. Like, a lot of them do seem to be hitting around the 11 to 14 minute marks. At least that's my interpretation of it. Maybe it's going to take a lot longer for some. But I definitely would like to see them a bit more spaced out. Like, maybe some quest talents can be hitting like before 10, and maybe some are going to hit like at 20. Or like have two tiers, and the first tier hits at like 10 and the second one at 20. So I'd definitely like to see some more variety there. But about quest talents in general, I actually really, really like them. And two of the less obvious reasons that I like them, the first is talent consolidation, basically. I think the best example of this is kael'thas. Currently, on the live patch, you have Mana Addict and you have Arcane Barrier.
Yeah.
And to take one without the other doesn't really make any sense. Unless Mana Addict's ridiculously broken. So you basically just lock two talent tiers if one of the talents is like slightly overtuned. And like even if they're not overtuned, you also only give the kael'thas two options if he doesn't take the level 1, like two options at 16. So putting them both on the level 1 talent and also giving him other strong level 1 talents, including other quests, makes it so that it's freed up talent tiers down the line, and it's also stopped them from being locked into each other. So I think that's very interesting in and of itself. And the other reason I really like it is because it's dynamic power spikes for the individual player, and that means that not only can that individual make a play, but your team can also make a play. So if you're 14 versus 14, but you've got two heroes with quests that they hit at around the 14 mark, your 14 power spike is actually meaningful as a team. And that's going to make, I feel like, the macro game in competitive play a lot more interesting when we start to see these talents become viable.
Alex, do you have thoughts on questing talents in general?
Yeah, in general, I really like it actually. Compared to the others, I think it's really important to have some sort of like there's egoistic players playing the game, including myself. That like it, I think it will feel really rewarding. Like even if the power spike, as far as I have seen the talents, it's not like it's literally game changing, but it's big. Yeah. Like it seems, of course it's really hard to say, but it seems around balanced. And I really like the fact that an individual player will be like, I will farm this and this and then I will get a spike. I think it's good for the game, but I am not sure. I actually don't think it will work out too good in competitive if the talents are balanced, since early game is really important.
So I have to ask the question on from that then. Does questing talents, or does it allow the potential of a heightened skill cap for Heroes of the Storm as a whole? Or is that something that it won't even be a factor with things like this?
Really hard to say for me. I'm not sure. I think it's... I think the more different factors, like if there's a lot of different talents, I think the good players will be better. It's really hard to compare talents, for example. And if a pro player has a better understanding than other players, then he will have an advantage. And I think the smarter player will average. With these kind of changes, he will have an advantage. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I think I explained it really bad. But I think it's really good.
I think in gen. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, well, I think so when Baker, you come some of the points that you made, like kind of in the first phase, I actually think that's a flaw. Talent system, not questing. Like you were talking about like the trading off of talents and when they pair and everything else, and like everything you listed with kael'thas isn't a problem. It's not that the questing solved the problem. It's that the talent system was poor, and they've implemented a system that where with the questing it's like less poor now, but you attribute it to questing when it's not really like the questing talents are actually that good. I kind of agree on a solo queue perspective and the average player, the rewarding sense of this is like a really valuable thing for the game, without a doubt. I just think from the competitive aspect and everything else that it provides little to no, very little healthiness for the game in the long run. I just think the game is already implemented to be in a system to where it's very difficult to come back from. That's why they implement free XP to each and every individual, and it's in a situation to where that power spike exists in a very, very questionable area when it comes to the majority of the quests. But then also the argument is, well, it's going to give you a power spike over your opponents, and you're going to be able to play them and get that. Number one, the biggest problem is I can't identify when you hit your power spike with these talents, and I think that's a terrible system with the questing. I need to know when you've gotten your quest. If you get Arcane Barrier and I don't know that, I'm going to get like wrecked.
Yeah.
Like I need to know that you have that. That's a huge flaw with this system. And then number two, I think is that a lot of like what this does positively for the system is actually not questing talents. It's just that they've gotten better and made better like talent system. But then also I remember there was a level 16. Oh, so the individual, everybody argues that it's like, well, it gives you an individual power spike and advantage over your opponents. But that's why you scale at 0.04. Like you get a 4% bonus damage over your opponents for every level. You have an advantage. If you're in the lead, you'll only maintain an advantage over your opponents. In theory, you should win, if played perfectly, every team fight if you have a lead over your opponents, not counting the talent tier. So I don't think this individual power spike is justified to make it like a better system. I like the idea of promoting a individual player for playing better than their opponents. I just think that can be done through making the talent system to where trade-offs exist at absolutely every tier, and there's diverse play at every tier, and this is a band-aid to like a huge wound in the game.
I have an interesting
and comparison. So it appears really good.
I have an interesting comparison to try and make, and you can disagree with it if you want. But so something in StarCraft that was very prevalent was the idea of you're going into a PvP, Protoss versus Protoss, and you're playing Stalker versus Stalker. Now, oftentimes you would have players that would research Blink or something like that. It wouldn't initially be scouted, and then there was the potential for them to then reveal it later on down the line and be like, ha, I have this kind of tool available to myself. Is Arcane Barrier, if you see that someone has taken Arcane Barrier or the Mana Addict, and you have a good sense of the game, you should be able to anticipate around the time when they would have Arcane Barrier, right? And if they don't, if they haven't shown it to you, then that's just kind of like that. That's the I didn't catch Blink kind of thing, or something.
Yeah, the kind of baited and outsmarted mentality. That might be. I personally don't know if I like that, but I can see where you're coming from as it being like dynamic. I think it makes more sense from the StarCraft perspective than it does in the MOBA genre. But I see where you're coming from. Like the deceit in itself is an outplay. So that is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. I'd have to think about that for a while.
Bakery, you had some thoughts as well.
Yeah, to jump back to Dreadnought's point about not being able to know when these quests completed, I definitely agree. I think you definitely should be able to see. And it's not just about the enemy team seeing, it's also about you as a player. Like, just going back to how rewarding it feels when you complete this quest. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were to complete the kael'thas quest, the damage one at level 1, and when you do that, your hands light on fire, and you look like a badass, and then when you complete with Illidan, your Blades of Azeroth, they glow green. Like, that would feel so much better as a player, and it would also serve the purpose of showing both your and the enemy team that you've completed that quest.
Proper telegraphing, yeah.
Yeah, proper telegraphing. I think that's definitely needed, and I hope that we'll see that added in the near future. But jumping back onto the mind game thing, I really don't like that, personally. I don't think there's any argument that definitely is an outplay. Like, I definitely agree there. But it's not the kind of outplays that are interesting to see as a viewer, because if the enemy team just assumes that you have it anyway, which is kind of the smart thing to do, like, the average viewer is never going to notice that. So I don't really think that's something they should aim for.
I get you. Do we have any more general thoughts on questing talents before we move on to all the talents that have been changed for other heroes?
I think as we get to them, we'll see. I think some of them are far better than others, and some of them just don't even make sense. Like, they're just weird.
All right. Well, let's move on then, boys. We are now scrolling down the page. I don't think we need to talk about Gaul, do we? Is this
quality of life? Kind of nice. Maybe.
I mean, yeah.
Thank you, Gaul, for your contribution. All right, on to Greymane to start things off. So Greymane, as you can see on the screen, has had just a few little changes here and there. Basic attacks in human form, responsiveness improvements. Melee basic attack animation speed increased by 50% to match the speed of his basic range animation. Marked for kill is the thing that is most buffed up here, because let's face it, no one really takes marked for the kill. Is this going to be a change that has any impact, do you think?
If the impact should be viability, then no. Mm-hmm. I think it's not enough to make it viable. I would really have liked to... I think the Greymane Ultimate and Greymane in general is like slightly overtuned. So I would like to see a slight damage nerf, and at the same time that change. And I think it would be... I still think that Ultimate would be picked more, but it makes marked for the kill much more interesting.
I just want to jump on that one really quickly and say, no, don't nerf the damage, nerf the cooldown. The cooldown's 60 seconds. Like, I feel like it's a recurring issue in Heroes right now, where there are just ultimates with far too low cooldowns. It does basically as damage as full settle. It's a mobility spell, and it gives you a reset, and it also switches forms, and it's half the cooldown. Hello, Blizzard?
But no, I mean, have you seen Syndragosa's cooldown? Have you taken a minute to appreciate Syndragosa's cooldown? I mean, Void Prison, like, I don't think very many people could argue it. Void Prison's either the strongest or very close to it, and it's like, it's like at a, 100 second cooldown? 100 second cooldown, and then it's like, oh, well, we have Gust, that's 45. We have, then you look at Hinterland's Blast, and then also Syndragosa, and you're just like, how... This doesn't add up. Like, the impact that it can have directly on the game compared to the rest, and it's just like, how? Like, is this a thing? Yeah. I think I agree with you. I agree with both of you on your points when it comes to Greymane specifically. I agree when it comes to the ultimate or heroics and the time of them all. I do think this is something that makes Greymane's mark for the kill a little bit more appetizing, but at the same time, I think it's a good quality of life change, but I don't think comparatively it's going to see very much play. Mm-hmm. It kind of makes them, I don't know, it's strange. I don't think it'll be there quite yet, but I do like it. I like it.
Does Greymane fall into the window at the moment of you play him one way, like you poke with cocktails, you poke with shots, and then when you see a kill, you go in with the combo, and marked for the kill changes don't do enough to take him out of that one playstyle that is currently seen?
I think as long as the level 7 talent... Like, this level 7 talent right now is stupid in my eyes. I don't see any situation where you should not take the Q talent. And I think Yeah, they need to twist a lot if they want to make him have different playstyles than the cocktail, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. It comes down to his other talents. It's like that Vala question we asked last time, right? We were talking about whether or not Strafe becomes irrelevant, and it's not because Strafe or not because Reign of Vengeance became like that much better. It's because the synergy with like other talents to their playstyle, like the W nerf at level 4, was enough to make Strafe become like just why would you take Strafe now?
Yeah.
So it's like not so much that Mark for the Kill is like terrible. This is, I think, a really great change. It's just like, but there's so many other things done to his kit that need to be adjusted for it to be a play style.
All right. Dread, I think your webcam is actually frozen. If you want to kind of just re-undo that one. Sorry, buddy. It's been done it for a while. We tried to prompt you on Skype call, but it's all good. All right. So I don't think we need to say anything more about Greymane at the moment. In that regard. That is Mark.
Am I alive?
Yeah, you're alive, man. Hello.
Yay! Hello.
Welcome back.
Sorry, the pond is killing you. It's a big pond, as we mentioned. All right, we're going to skip Illidan for now, because we're going to come to those full reworks in just a little bit, once we've talked about everybody else. We are on to Jaina. Oh, poor Jaina. Poor Jaina. I just... there was so much love, Dread, in Katowice. Where was she? And now she will never exist again.
Never again. Good night, my sweet princess. Oh my goodness.
So what did they do, guys?
My biggest problem with this is that they decided to move Ice Barrier talent to 13 tier, which is then like honestly with all the adjustments, removing Bolt and adjusting Ice Block to 20. It's like, okay, well, let's look at our other 13s. Obviously, you're going to be going Icy Veins, but they're like, what about Ice Barrier? That could be your defensive replacement. But no, the answer is no. You need Icy Veins to make that 16 tier your defensive replacement. Like if they left it to where you could just go machine gun build and then build the shield up and kind of make that as your like all-in trading style play of Jaina, I would really, really like it. But outside of that, it's just like they just essentially killed the only viable build remaining by removing our 13.
I think the changes makes way too weak, but I still like the idea of moving the Ice Block and removing Blink.
Yeah, I agree. I agree there.
I think the Blink should just like be removed from the game, or to specific heroes. It feels stupid sometimes. At least as a tank, like you get someone out of position late game and they just blink away. It feels bad, man.
No, I agree. I agree. It should be. I feel like Bolt's like everybody gets it or nobody gets it kind of deal.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I would say a very few would be the best.
I feel like cleanse. It's one of those things that is so crucial to the game that I think every support should have either the option to take cleanse or just nobody gets cleanse is all, and you balance around it that way. I think Bolt is not equally influential. It's more influential. But like I view it the same way. Is that it's like it's even unfair to be like. Go ahead.
Even though it's more influential, then it's like cleanse is level 7 and Bolt is level 20. So I think cleanse is more impactful throughout the game, where it's only at a small part of the game where Bolt is a problem.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like a good cleanse at level 20 is equally relevant to a great Bolt. Like, both save the game or lose the game equally. So I kind of agree that, like, I do think that, like, cleanse being available earlier makes a lot more sense. If you gave Bolts at 7, that would be the worst decision in the world. But at the same time, I don't think that changes on who should get it versus who shouldn't for the most part. I think I would rather nobody have it than everybody have it, but at the same time, I feel like it's just one of those things that it's too good, it's too strong.
So you don't like that they remove it from Jaina and let it be on other heroes?
Yeah, I don't like that. I think either everybody should have it or nobody have it after that, ideally. But I do get why they're slowly moving the way that they are. I mean, I think it makes sense what they're doing and how they're doing it, but at the same time, it's just overall that's kind of how I feel, I guess.
The thing is though, if I am on the same boat. If I would rather either everybody gets it or no one gets it, more so on the nobody should get it route. I think similar to Alex, that they should just take it away. But then you would need to make adjustments, I feel, to things like Zagara, for example.
Oh yeah,
like to make sure that she still had some like capability of not dying all the time.
No, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you can't just remove Bolt and be like, the game's balanced. It's a huge impact on the game, especially when it comes to late game. No, I think it's really, really good. But when it's like a talent that's like so dominant compared to everything else and like so influential, it's just like it doesn't matter. Like you're like, wow, my team is like, I could really use like a Storm Shield right now, but you're like, but I'm also offered Bolt of the Storm. So really, do they need that shield? I don't think so. Because like it just does so much. It's like even like all it is like, and then it leads to the late game. Like the reverse, Alex, is the opposite. It's like, well, they just bolt away, but then it's like, oh yeah, well, a squishy is like clearing out a wave, and Stitches or somebody with Bolt is like too many ways away. They mount up before the Jaina. They just fly in, and then all they have to do is Jaina like mounts up, and it's just like, oh, Bolt's W, and it's just like, nope, you're now dead. Like I will delay you long enough in your escape just because I have Bolt to the point where you can't get away, and then my team collapses on a kill. It's just like. Everybody should have the option to be like, well, I can counter Bolt or I can't. And if you don't have your counter Bolt up, then in theory you got outplayed. So,
yeah.
I think we could probably spend 2 hours talking about Bolt alone.
Oh yeah, Bolt. Yeah, we probably shouldn't have talked about Bolt. Just
No.
But I just want to close it off by saying, Blizzard, if you can do this, I want to see you on the PTR when there's not a patch in testing. I want to see every single hero get Bolt automatically at 20 and see what happens.
Good God.
it sounds like a good time to me, dude.
But no, I agree with Dread on this one.
I think by the way, if everybody gets Bolt needs to be a way longer cooldown.
Yeah. What is it currently?
I don't way
it's
too
70
short.
seconds. 70.
70?
Used to be 40. That was a good time.
It should be like honestly like 3 minutes. Like
Yeah.
it's honestly as impactful as Resurgence. Resurgence was nerfed from 2 to 3 minutes, and it is still as like influential. And then they just said we're just gonna remove it from the whole game, and that makes sense because certain kits kind of rely on dying and the whole thing, so that made sense. Whereas Bolt is kind of universally going to be beneficial. I can see them want to implement it, but like it's just like it's like legitimately shorter than Syndra Kosa. Bolt's a shorter cooldown than Syndra Kosa. Like what?
Dude, she's a beautiful dragon. She can only come out once every so often. All right, we're moving on from Jaina, boys. We're moving on. We are skipping over kael'thas for a bit, because there's lots of changes there. We're on to Kerrigan. There is only one major change here to her, and that's to her Ultralisk. Attacks damage increased from 90 to 100. It's increased. And then we have Tarask. That's how you pronounce it, right? Tarask.
Yeah.
Which is egg time life decreased from 8 to 4 seconds, and egg health decreased from 1,000-ish to 590-ish. Like, is this going to allow any Kerrigan Ultralisk play? I mean, we don't see Kerrigan much anyway, never mind no Ultralisk. This is odd.
I think the much more important Kerrigan change is the one that allowed her to use her Q to objects could be placed on the ground and in vulnerable targets.
Yeah.
That's actually a really big quality of life change that might make her see play in the few scenarios where she wouldn't before.
Right.
Not that she ever is going to see a play because he's awful, but this change does pretty much nothing. Like Ultralisk as an ultimate just doesn't really work because, like, she cannot do anything without Maelstrom. Like, Maelstrom is her team fight, and if you don't take it and you take the Ultralisk, even though Ultralisk might be strong, you're playing a 4v5. That's how I think, anyway.
No. Anything else to add, guys, on this Ultralisk change?
She's got way too many problems for this to make her relevant. I do agree with you. The biggest changes was the quality of life to her Q, but I mean, she just has so many survivability problems and other things when it comes to her kit that it's just like, okay, well, like Ultralisk is cool and is going to be more effective, but it doesn't really matter.
Yep. All right, we'll move on. Bye-bye, Kerrigan. All right, on to Lunara. Noxious Blossom, choking pollen, damage bonus increase from 50% to 100%. And then we have Crippling Spores. Let Them Wither talent has been changed. The slow amount applied by Crippling Spores no longer decays over its 3-second duration. Slow amount reduced from 60% to 50%. So How do you guys really think that these changes actually impact Lunara, if at all, much?
I have an unpopular opinion, so I'm going to do it last.
Let's do that.
I can do it first if you want. It's just, I don't know. Like, there's two talents when Lunara released, Choking Pollen and Nature's Calling, that I thought were just, like, insanely powerful, and I was just like, why? Like, these are actually, like, really, really strong. And then just seeing the, like, double the damage. I was told in Twitch chat that it was, like, only 300 damage bonus by 20. I don't know if that's actually true, but, like, Lunara's biggest problem with their kit, she does an insane amount of damage. She does an insane, and she's really squishy, and obviously there's other factors, but the number one thing for her is, like, she just can't kill anything. Like, if anything gets on her, if, like, nobody's there to baby her, she just can't kill it. But with that talent, you actually, like, if somebody moves in on you, just burst the hell out of them. And it's something that I actually really like to change, and I was a fan of the talent before, and I think that it actually might see play now.
Okay.
And like I said, I think that's an unpopular opinion, but I really do think it's powerful.
The Noxious Blossom or the Crippling Spores?
The Noxious Blossom at 16.
Yeah, I don't think, though, that it will see play. I might be completely wrong. I'm not a ranged damage healer, but I think
I agree. I think it'll be, if it does see play, it'll be in a long time from now. I don't think it'll be right away, but...
Like, here's the thing. It's gone from being like a 350 damage tickle to being a 700 damage nuke. So that's actually pretty significant now, if you take that talent. But it still seems to me like it's going to be impossible to hit. It's got a long delay in a base.
What about 13? What about 13?
You
could avoid unfair advantage and go increase range. You can take the range, yeah. I think it just essentially opens up a role that she could fill that she's never been able to do kind of before. Well, obviously she was kind of that raw damage output, but with that point you can just be this long, like she's always been kind of pokey, but it just accents it even more. It's really hard to deal with her. And you were talking about kind of that Moonfire, Tranquility style, like Malfurion. It's, I mean, same concept, less healing, but it's just like it makes her long distance damage just even higher. Like, I'm not kidding you. When I played this, like when under initial release, like if like a baller or something, if they have a very squishy in the backline, they can't move up when you have that 13 tier talent. They just can't move up because your range is so long. It's like one ult Q and you half health them instantly. And it's just like they're in the safety of their team. They are very much in where they're supposed to be. You aren't risking your positioning and you just nuke a backline. And it's just like, how do you do with that? And it's not like her Q has like the longest cooldown in the world. I don't know exactly the duration of it. I gotta look that up. I think it's like 8.
It's 8
seconds.
It's not too long. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, paired with the 13, I definitely see that it can have a use. But I feel like you're going to be giving up a lot of damage if you don't go for unfair advantage. And if you have to give up that damage, then I feel like you're probably going to create a spell shield. So, I mean, it's going to be a pretty niche like scenario. I'd actually like to see that style that Dread mentioned be played, because I think it's pretty interesting. Like to play and to play against, because she's got no gap closer, but she has got like good movement speed. So, yeah, I'd like to see it get played. I can see why it would be played. But I feel like you're going to lose too much damage with unfair advantage. And I also feel like the playstyle gets stepped on a bit by Starwood Spear, which increases your basic attack range by 50% for 6 seconds. So I feel like the long-range poke is kind of the same with both builds, but you're just doing more damage with the standard.
Yeah, I really like the point they bring up about 13, because when I originally saw Lunara released, I thought 13 was like such a heavily would have been a very heavily contested talent choice in regards to the strength of the other talents. Because if you're not going to take the unfair advantage, you're going to take a greater spell shield. It's really, really strong, etc. But I think that really kind of covers what we want to talk about in terms of Lunara's change there. Let's go on to the Butcher, which is... Oh, God, this change...
The silence of the lambs, man.
This one has frustrated me to no end, and Bakery can testify to this, that I've been angry at this one. On Team
Pretty much every time I've spoken to Kaelaris, this has come up, and he's complained about it.
I love the Butcher. I love him in his current form, and then then this happens. I don't understand. But anyway, okay, so let's go through these changes. It's only to Lamb to the Slaughter, and the gist of it is the targets affected by Lamb to the Slaughter are now silenced for the ability's duration, and now the duration is down to 3 seconds as opposed to 4 seconds. But we have an increase of 30 seconds on the cooldown, which is quite sizable, to say the least, during all of this. What do you guys make of this change?
I love the change, personally.
Yeah?
I like that it gets stronger, and you will have more targets for the lamp. It will be less impact. Like, you don't have to hit maybe one target, but you can hit more targets and have a chance to kill them. And I like the general thought that Blizzard wants to increase the cooldown and have stronger ultimates.
I like that last statement you made a lot. I do agree with you there. I don't play the Butcher enough or like him enough to know whether or not I'm like, I like this change towards the Butcher. I just view it as like, in my head, right, with like how little I like him and play him, I just view it as like, if I feel anything about Butcher, the number one thing I like about him is that I always feel like if you mess up even a little bit, I can make you punish. And I feel like with the increased cooldown, I don't feel like I can do that as well, but at the same time, obviously, he brings a lot more diversity and options in team fights. I have no idea how I feel like this affects him competitively. In my head, it's just like it pulls away from his punishing capabilities, so it's like slightly hurts him. But as I said, I really don't know directly. But I just like it because it's the Silence of the Lambs. That's the only reason I like it.
Yeah.
So, something that Kaelaris didn't mention, but is actually a crushing nerf to the point where you can no longer take this ultimate, is the fact that Cleanse removes the effects.
Oh.
Yeah.
Then it's horrible.
Like...
No, like...
But wait a minute.
But for real.
But think about it, boys. At the same time, if you get to level 20... and then you take the upgrade...
silent.
It's a 5.
Everyone's silent!
Yeah!
Okay, so I'm kind of conflicted on this change. The cleanse change was stupid. They should have kept it the same. The cleanse suppresses it for the 1 second. It rewards the timing. If you time it really well, you can remove the last second of the CC. So you can shorten it from 3 seconds to 2 seconds if you have proper timing in your cleanse, which is really nice. Or you can negate the initial burst by cleansing them immediately and allowing them to dodge the skill shots. So there's a nuanced use of cleanse in that use case, which was really good, I thought. And this change, like, it's a 50% cooldown increase and a 25% effectiveness nerf in its current standard use case. If you're just looking for a pick with this thing, you only have 3 seconds, and if you miss it, it's a 90-second cooldown. So that's really punishing, because when you use it, especially at max range, it's going to take you like 2 seconds to actually get onto the target.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, you're going to have 1 second of CC by the time you charge into them, and then they just walk away, if they haven't been cleansed at this point. However, it does add another use case, which in its current form I don't think is useful, but we'll see, which is if you use this on the tank or the support, it's now a 3-second silence. So if you want to dive past like a specifically tricky hero, for example, you want to dive on the Zagara, but they've got like a Thrall and let's say Arthas, then you can lamb like the Thrall or the Arthas, and then you can dive past them and try and kill the Zagara. Or you can lamb the Rhaegar or the Uther and then try and kill any target without their healing. I don't think that's actually going to be possible because the delay is huge and the target selection is whichever's closest. So as long as somebody on the team is paying attention, you're never going to hit the support.
Yeah, the range on Lamb's huge, actually, for those who haven't messed around with it. It's actually insane how far the range is, and it makes a lot of sense, but it very much so is like, the delay, or you're like, okay, it's a little bit difficult, but then it's selection, right? So you're like, well, you could just silence the healer. But it's like, if anybody realizes they're playing as the Butcher, you keep one person next to the healer and just move closer when it goes down. And then the minute that happens, you cleanse it, and then you're like, and Land of the Slaughter is now non-existent. So I don't know. Yeah. And it's like on a 90-second cooldown instead of the 60 now. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I didn't like it, but it's just, like I said, it's just a Butcher, and I don't like him as a hero very well, so didn't really affect me. As long as he didn't come out and just be like a monster and ruin everybody's face, I was okay with it.
It's a good job I just got my Butcher to level 10 and I don't have to play it anymore. So there you go, alright. Bye-bye Butcher for a moment. We are moving on. We're going past Tychus, because we'll get to him at some point. And we are going on to the specialists. Ooh, a juicy one.
The biggest buff.
AlexTheProG.
A juicy...
It's needed.
Yeah. Bakery, talk to us about it, you monk specialist, you.
Okay, well, this is by far the biggest buff in this entire... Abathur's now first pick, first ban. He inherits Kazim's trait. He's dealing the most damage in the game. He's healing the most... This is just ridiculous. I think he's going to be banned every game.
Right, thanks for that. Next one, we're going on to Azmodan. Globe of Annihilation. Taste for blood. Duration in which enemies' deaths will permanently add a Globe of Annihilation damage increase from 1 to 1.5 seconds. So actually, in theory, this does make sacking a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, in theory. Yeah.
I like
it's
how we
just like, does it make Azmodan good? No. Like, he still struggles from all the same problems. It just makes... I like this change only because it's like, if I one day I'm playing quick match and I've given up on life and I just insta-lock Azmodan and I'm like, you know what, I want to stack, I can do this a little bit better on my own. Like post 7, if you time it properly, it ensures the probability of me getting more stacks on my own. Outside of that, it's like, it's Azmodan, you know? Like half the time I see Azmodan, I feel like, especially in solo queue, I'm just like, it'd be better off just going push Modan, dude. It's harder to deal with in solo queue. Just go that way.
I expected a few more changes to Azmodan, considering they're about to release this really elaborate Heroes of the Dorm skin for him. But no.
I mean, if you want to talk about more changes to a specialist that you're surprised by, it's going to be our next one.
Yeah, once we get onto the full reworks, that's for sure. No more thoughts on Azmodan here, guys, I don't think, right?
It doesn't change anything about him in competitive. His issue wasn't actually last hitting the waves, like especially since the scaling changes. He can last hit the waves with literally Grey Main. He can do it with Jaina, he can do it with Kael, he can even do it with Veigar. Like, he had no issue last hitting the waves. The issue is he just doesn't add enough.
No. Alright, we're skipping over Gazlo at the moment, because we'll get onto our reworks in a bit, which is what Dread is alluding to. And we are on towards Murky. Block talent renamed Fish Tank, so it's just the normal block from before, so it's not really a change per se. March of the Murlocs damage increase from 19 to 25 plus the 4%. I still think here we still have the opinion that Octograb is just going to rule the roost.
I mean, it's a almost 30% damage increase on March of the Murlocs. Like,
yo, it's like Malfurion's level 4 Rampant Growth, dude.
Like, but... It's 30% more damage, which is at least significant. I feel like if they have Cleanse and you have no pick, but you wanted the Soak and you wanted the global presence for Murky, maybe March is now something you could consider trying.
Okay.
But, it's right now, it's not a big enough jump to actually change the general way that you play him.
Yeah.
I think the pickoffs on Octograb is too big to... Like, if you want Murky, you will never have a strong teamfight, I would say. If you want Murky and teamfight, then I don't think March of the Murloc does enough to make him as one hero. Mm-hmm. I think the only way to win a teamfight 5 versus 5, more or less as Murky, is going in, burst the target down, and play 4 versus 4 after that.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about the Murky changes is, number one, obviously touching that's something that hasn't been seen in a while, and like only slightly moving it up in a positive direction. But then also identifying that giving Murky the actual upgraded block might be cancer for the game, and giving him the original, I think, is actually probably one of the most impressive things that I've seen out of this patch. I was very happy to see they didn't give him the improved version as well, because that just doesn't sound fun. But also, I don't know. I like March. Honestly, I've always liked it. I don't think I don't think it's quite there yet, but I'm just glad Murky's one of those heroes that is kind of borderline. You mess with him too much, he just becomes insane. So I'm glad that they aren't just like, you know what, Murky hasn't seen played in a while, and just like drop like huge changes to him.
And then he just breaks everything completely.
Yeah, I'm very glad that they're kind of like, hey guys, we might want to tread lightly here with Murky. So
Yeah.
I just want to hop in. When I saw that there were a lot of mistakes in the original release of these patch notes, I was literally F5ing looking at the Murky section. Please don't let this be a typo. Please let this be the actual change. But yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. When I originally read the block change, Murky didn't even come into my mind. And then I scrolled down to Murky, and eventually it said it's renamed Fish Tank. It's the same guys. Don't worry. I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, they really did think about this. This is very impressive. All right, let's move on to Nazebo. We have Gargantuan getting himself quite a sizable buff in terms of damage, actually. And no longer deals bonus damage to minions and structures, which actually takes away a lot of its siege potential, but increases its team fight. But we're not really seeing much Nazebo anyway. Is this going to make much of a difference, guys?
nope.
I don't think so.
Nazero's main issue has always been his damage is literally random. It's just straight up random.
Yeah, sure.
And this change, especially since Gargantuan has such ridiculous AI, and its auto attack animation cancels unless the target is slowed and they walk in a straight line. So yeah, like his damage is still far too random to actually pick him in competitive, even if his numbers were good.
I feel at this point, we see so few Nazebos that, like, now whenever anybody plays Nazebo, they can pick Gargantuan, and there is actually a game master at Blizzard controlling that Gargantuan who has never played the game before and is just walking around doing whatever he wants, really. That's kind of how it feels.
Nazebo's just like, I view him as a bad Lunara right now. It's just like, if you wanted Nazebo, why not pick Lunara? You just spread massive damage over time over everybody. It's just like, why? And I don't think this is going to change that at all. I think he needs a lot more help, and personally, with how little Nazebo is being looked at, it feels like by Blizzard. I don't know. He's a solo queue stomper. I think he has some of the highest solo queue rates. Am I wrong about that?
He had like 60% or something when he was not even good.
Yeah, I think he's like, I think he kind of pub stomps in the sense that people like to hang around objectives like absurdly long periods of time in solo queue, and he just goes like, and just like throws things, and then it's just like things die over time, right? And so I think he's like effective in that sense, but realistically, competitively, and everything else, he struggles from so many problems that I think they're trying to figure out if they want him to be like competitively viable or just like the solo queue, like the Lily of like specialists.
I can see here on Hotstocks that he has 52% win rate, and he is number 6 regarding win rate, so he is doing pretty good.
Are you kidding me?
No,
What
dude.
the-
He stomps, dude. I told you. You can't mess
actually
with
had
those
no idea.
spiders. That's
Okay.
calculated.
And it's even not that many matches, but it's still like reliable, I would say.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah, it's definitely not near as much as some of the others, but still, he has a notable amount for sure. If you look at the popularity of the builds, too, it's just so lopsided. It's not even funny. But yeah, so I think that's kind of where they sit. Nazebo, if you think about, like, Nazebo hasn't been significantly touched in quite a while. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be because either kind of like a massive adjustment like we've seen this patch, or maybe they're just okay with where he is because of the solo queue effect, so.
All right, well, let's move on from Mr. Brr and find another member of our cast. Sylvanas we are skipping over for now. We will get to in just a bit. Look at that lovely purple mind control. Oh god, it's so beautiful. Lost Vikings all off the stout. Time between block stacks reduced from 8 seconds to 5 seconds. I mean...
It was always 75%, so they had to give it some form of buff, because it's supposed to be a better block, so... It's just they've thought about it again, which is good. Good job, Blizzard. And they've made a good change, I think.
Yep, I think that's fair. Moving on to Zul, of course. Curse Strikes, attack speed slow, now only affects heroes and summons. Can't quite recall what else it did affect beyond that.
Monsters?
Minions and mercenaries.
Yeah.
Minions and mercenaries. Okay, and not the boss. So...
Yeah.
Good change. I mean, the thing is that he cleared waves so fast anyway, but
here's the thing: is they did a blanket sweep, maybe 2, 3, 4 patches ago, where they made every attack speed slow talent not work on minions and mercenaries, and then he comes out with a basic ability that works on minions and mercenaries, and I was just like, is this a bug? Like, there's no way this is intended.
Yeah.
But I mean, clearly it was.
And that's actually something that's kind of underestimated. Like when Murden Reverb works on minions, it's one of the most underestimated things. When you nerf the attack speed of minions, I think minions are probably overall one of the most underestimated things in the game, and that's like on how much of effect they kind of have on the success of the game. And that's a prime example. It's like Murden, like when you had Reverb, you would just actually body a mini wave, and it was only because you attack speed debuffed it. And so with Zool, because he clears it so fast, not as relevant, but at least they're making things uniform. Yeah. So,
any thoughts, Alex, though, on that one?
I think it's a good change, but yeah. Nothing more, really.
Yeah, just to bring it in line overall. Moving on to Zagara, Nidus Worm change. Dear me. Okay, so health and mana are now restored at an equal rate of Hall of the Storms whilst you're inside the Nidus Worm. Nidus Worm can now be cast whilst inside another Nidus Worm. Zagara now exits Nidus Worm instantly and also can also exit by right-clicking the minimap. Thoughts, guys? I mean, aside from some crazy...
It's so bugged right now, I feel like you can't even judge it. Right. I feel like because everybody just takes it and then looks for the bug and hopes that somebody makes the bug happen, and you're just like, I can't even judge if I think this is like kind of maybe good. It's just like everybody
today, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten to play it yet.
They fixed it.
Sorry,
I haven't gotten to play it yet. So that sucks. I don't know. Overall, I personally don't think it provides too much for her. I don't know. I think it helps increase the probability of Nidus Network being a thing. I don't think Nidus Network is ever going to be like overly dominant. Maybe situational for sure.
Oh. Do you know the glorious part of that video when it was released, showing that bug? The fact that the Illidan rework, whilst he's dancing around Zagara, he's actually losing no health to all of her attacks. He's like just gaining health throughout. Obviously, we're going to get onto the Illidan rework, but he just... Anyway, yeah, that was the best part of the video for me. Alright, we're going on to the supports. Brightwing, Pixie Dust, damage reduction amount changed from 50% to 75%, which is...
Block change.
It's quite a lot, but it's just the block change. Moving on to Lily then.
Same thing.
Block change.
Block change. Moving on to Rhaegar that they're trying to bury into the ground. Earthbind Totem can now be hit and by area of effect abilities.
Good change. Woo!
You like it?
I think it's a really good change.
I think it's a bit late. I think it's already pretty bad. They get stopped at this point. But this is nerfing his power in a way that adds counterplay and makes him have to play more intelligently. So, good job. I like it.
I agree. It's just you shouldn't have slaughtered, or not slaughtered so much, but like approached his ancestral the way that they did without like doing things like this first. So I don't like the order, but I agree with you. I like the change overall.
Yeah, Alex, you said it was good too. You like it?
Yeah, I like it. But as Bakery said, I would have preferred this nerf over some of the other nerfs.
Yeah.
I think this makes much more sense than no ancestral on yourself, for example. But yeah. I still like the change.
Alright, fair play. We can move on to our warriors. I don't think there's too much in here. Chen, Fortifying Brew. A 0.5 second cooldown has been added between activation and cancellation of Fortifying Brew channeling.
And they also fixed the bug, which is when you press D after you'd already finished channeling the brew, to channel it again, it would not work and you'd be stunned for like half a second and then you'd start drinking.
Right.
But that was a bug, so it's not listed.
Okay. No.
I don't think it'll have much effect, but I kind of like it because he's such a lame bully. It kind of affects that a little bit, but
yeah.
I actually think it will have some effect. Like it will feel like I play a lot of Chen myself, and I think it will feel really awkward in that half second.
Yeah.
Like often on Chen, what I feel like, you will have one position, and then you will stand there and drink pretty much, make a combo, and drink instantly again.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's something big. It will just be like, it will just feel awkward at start.
Okay, so while I really like that they fixed the chaining D issues, this change is awful. This change is really, really bad because it's not really too relevant, right? But something that Aetherius used to do a lot when we played Shen is he would like drink and then he'd Q and then he'd WE, right? And if we were chasing, he would then drink for 10 extra brew, which would give the speed boost and health regen and give him enough for another combo. Right? So skilled Shen players could use the D for short amounts of time to regen 10, 20 brew. Right now, because you're stuck for 0.5 seconds, which was intended to be a quality of life change to make it so you don't instantly cancel the drink, has now destroyed that, really interesting and really skill-based nuance. Yeah. So I hate this change. I think it's awful. Sure, it makes him easier to pick up and play, but the fact that you've removed that actual really skillful, interesting brew management is just, I hate it.
I agree with you, except that I think that doesn't come down to... I think that comes down to more that Chen's kit has problems than it does to whether or not this change was the best or the worst. I just think his kit innately has just problems. It's so close to just being broken to just being trash. It's literally just borderline, and I just feel I agree with you that it's how it's going to be played out, but he is pretty resident sleeper to play and play against in most situations until you hit 16 and then you ascended the heavens and ruin everyone's experience. So I think I agree with you. I like to not attribute the change to being I think it's just terrible because his kit already has problems, and any change in any direction, it just needs reworked to some extent. Maybe not as severe as some of the ones we're going to get to, but definitely adjusted heavily.
Oh, okay. We can move on from Chen, I think. That covers pretty much everything that we want to talk about on that. We have Johanna, reinforced, damage reduction, block. And Rexar, block. All right. Well, now we can move on to our last section or potentially last section, I should say. We can start going through our reworks, and this is where it really gets juicy. We need to scroll all the way to the top. And
we start out with the good one.
Yeah, I believe it's Illidan, right?
Yeah, Illidan first.
Let's get hyphy.
I've gone too far. Where is he? Oh, there he is. I'm just going to click Illidan. Here we are. Hello, Illidan. All right. So, for everybody out there who may be a little bit unfamiliar with the changes that are currently going on in this PTR, 5 heroes have been completely, or for the majority, completely overhauled with their talents. Some have been distributed in different levels, and some are completely new talents. 5 are the heroes. We have Illidan, Sylvanas, kael'thas, Jaina, and Tychus, right? Wait, not Jaina. Gazlo. There you go.
Gazlo, yeah.
I got it. All right, so let's start with Illidan. Is there anything anybody wants to say before I start reading out some things that we have here about Illidan? Or you want me to just read them first?
I don't think reading's the way to go.
No, you don't want to do that?
I think we're going to be here for 20
Can you
minutes.
just give the TLDR of what happened to him? I feel TLDR of if anybody wants to read the changes, I feel they can read specifically every one.
True
he just got a health buff, he got the regen buff, he got attack speed buff, and then his talent system was essentially completely adjusted. He was removed of all burst defensive tools that he had before. He still has the evasion and the reset and all the unique stuff, but he gained a lot of self-healing in the process, a lot of more talent diversity.
Yeah, that's true. And as I've said, overall there is a shuffle. And actually, if you are kind of following the PTR notes along with us, guys, you can find even a really handy table that I really appreciate that they included in, by the way, considering how much has been moved around with all of these. So the blue ones have been moved around and the white ones are brand new. There's 5 brand new ones with some changes along the way. Where do you want to start, guys? I mean, there is a lot to go through here. We have new talent level 1, Unending Hatred, which is his questing talent, correct?
Yeah.
So let's start with that, I suppose. So permanently gaining a little bit of damage for every minion killed, and then 1 damage for each hero killed. And then upon reaching 20 bonus, you get an additional 10 basic attack damage. So there are little spikes here and there. He's still a very fast attacker, and there are also talents that come in that allow him to attack even faster down the line. So what do we make of this to start off?
So it's basically Seasoned Marksman, but mathematically worse until you hit the bonus. In which case you get a meaningful power spike, which I've seen hitting around 12 minutes, I'd say.
I don't think that... with Illidan specifically, or just in general the questing?
No, that specific talent.
So if he gains 0.1 per minion... then he can only gain 7 per mini wave. If he does it in a dual lane, then it's 14, so 1.4. And then he can do that twice every minute. So he gets like 1.4 times the 2, so 2.8 every minute. And so then how many he has to hit? So he can do it in, 7 minutes around. So
if you're being totally optimum.
If you're being completely min-maxing, you can do it in 7, which in theory Illidan is terrible in the 4-man for the most part. So... that's going to be a rough situation there, but I don't like it, but I've already given my opinions on the questing talents and why I don't like them, so...
I don't think the talent will be viable, at least. I think the AoE on level 1 is too strong compared to...
the immolation?
I think the quest is too slow. Especially when Illidan got such a strong laning phase now, like much stronger than before. He should win versus Chen and Sagara early game. And if you get that AoE, then you will win it even bigger.
I agree. Comparatively, it's not even option in most situations, but even just overall, the talent, just questing's lame.
All right. We'll move
all the hate.
We'll move on from unending hatred, which Dread seems to have towards the talent. And go on to level 16 talent, Fiery Brand, which is every 4th consecutive basic attack against the same hero, deals damage equal to 6% of the target's maximum health, which in theory is kind of like a better giant killer here. Is this something that level 16 is going to be taken? Because there are other talents there that seem to be very, very strong themselves, such as Blades of Azeroth.
And Marked for Death.
Yeah, is Marked for Death in there too?
Okay, so it's at 16. So like I personally I'm kind of in love with Marked for Death right now.
Me too.
It's kind of terrifying. It's like a 300 damage burst, not counting the base damage at like 100 something. So it's like 400, and depending on how you spec earlier as well, that can result in a burst heal every 4 seconds. This is something I was messing around with yesterday. So I personally like the other talents more, but it is. Against all squishies, for the most part, it's going to be more cost-effective to take Marked for Death, so only if you're intending to kill tanks, which usually if you hit 16 threshold, you aren't looking to kill tanks, because if you were killing the tanks the whole game, you're going to get Imposing Presence anyways, not counting the improved block as well. Yeah. So I just feel like it's not necessarily the go-to in most situations.
Okay. Other thoughts, fellas?
I mean... it's basically Giant Killer, but it's 16. So across the 4 auto attacks, you do the same amount of damage as Giant Killer, but you burst on the 4th. Mm-hmm. So in theory, it makes him more manageable. Which I feel like he should have done more than Giant Killer, because you do need to hit 4 against the same hero in a row.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree too much on that, because I think Illidan's attack speed is far higher than other heroes.
It's the same with Tychus. You got a passive buff, isn't it?
Yeah, but
it's at 1.8.
Yeah, 1.82 from 1.66.
Yeah. But I think even before he attacked faster than other heroes, I at least had that impression when I played Illidan.
Yeah, he did. He was tied with Valor for like the highest.
So I think it's fair that it's not as good as Giant Killer.
Yeah, I see your point. I'm actually really disappointed that this wasn't on a different tier to Marked for Death, although that might have been a bit broken. Like, because when I initially read about Marked for Death and initially read about Fiery Brand, I was thinking of a really sick combo Illidan could do, where he would Q on them, attack them 3 times, disengage, and then hunt, and then Q, and then auto attack. And he would burst so hard. I think that would have been really cool to see. I'm kind of disappointed that all of the burst talents, it seems like, are on 16.
It seems like, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of disappointed about that one.
There's a lot of other changes, of course, that are along here as well. One thing that I wanted to kind of ask you guys about is, obviously now, Metamorphosis has been changed as well, to the point where it's just a health overall, like, gain when you actually cast it on someone, and then, that's all you're actually getting from it. As well as, obviously, the defensive capabilities of trying to be able to dodge and stuff like that. Are we going to see the Hunt, with some of these talents, make for kind of that bursty combo that Bakery's talking about? Or are people still going to be going Metamorphosis for that kind of defensive spot?
I think Metamorphosis got more locked in because of the survivability changes.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I think Hunt has become less viable with these changes.
Okay.
Not less viable, just that meta has become more appealing. Just like with all the utility and everything else that it provides, like in how survivability he needs. Now he has essentially no defensive tools for the anti-burst that we were talking about. Meta is the closest thing he has to it. So I think it's kind of like a must. I mean, Illidan will always be able to ruin scrubs in solo queue, just like you'll just hunt and then you kill them. But when it comes to like actually dealing with 5v5s, Metamorphosis is very necessary for him, even with all the tremendous amount of nerfs that have come to it.
I'm reading down at this actually, and it's also said its demonic form now also provides 20% attack speed bonus. Is there reason for the? Is there any reason now for Nexus plays to even exist on him when demonic form is in that state?
At least not if you take Metamorphosis, I would say. Maybe if you take Hunt, I guess it's the best. I don't know. Maybe even he has both, right?
Hunt. He does have
both. If you take Hunt, you want nowhere to hide.
You've got to take the global Hunt, man. It's so important.
Yeah,
it's a nice
feels
change.
super out of place, to be honest.
And actually, the nowhere to hide change also showing people that are below 25% health. That's so cool.
That's broken.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
No, I think the concept's awesome. I just with his kit and everything else, it's just like, you know, like I don't know.
You can't really take it.
No, indeed.
Like, I wish you could though. It's gonna be so cool. Imagine, dude.
Yeah. You're on the hunt. You were actually on the hunt. How awesome is that? Like, that is true lore right there. Alright, so what else do we have that's in here? New talent, level 13, Elusive Strike. Reduces evasion's cooldown by 3 seconds for every hero damaged with sweeping strikes. Is this something at level 13 that sounds kind of appetizing to you guys in terms of his kit at the moment?
That was his level 1W, correct?
Battered
Assault? So tested it it's pretty difficult to get a double strike, and the bonus damage essentially doesn't apply. So at first I actually read it as the burst damage to his W, but it's the auto attacks after that period of time. And again, it's just going to be less cost effective than Immolation. If it was the burst damage of W itself, I would be relevant, and I actually think it would be kind of a go-to. But because that's not the case, it's pretty much inferior.
Ah, right. Sorry, you're talking about Battered Assault. I brought up Elusive Strike, but...
Oh, sorry.
I mean, you can talk about a strike.
What talent is that?
Elusive Strike at the level 13 on Evasion.
Okay, yeah. So at 13, I think Nimble Defender is just far too powerful compared to everything. 25% bonus or damage reduction? Yeah, universal damage reduction is insane. All damage after every 8 second cooldown with 2 auto attacks. If you get in that amount of time, not counting your evasion up at that point, you get a damage reduction. It's just insane. It's 25 damage reduction, and you can reset it even more. So it's like, well, his biggest problem right now is he has no defense, like large burst defenses, and like evasion. It's not like he struggles with defending auto attacks. He has an evasion and a block that can be talented into at level 7 to counter auto attacks if that's what he's worried about. That does not stack during his evasion use. If auto attacks and sustained damage is the reason Illidan's afraid of dying, there's no Illidan should never be afraid of dying in that manner. The only thing he's afraid to and susceptible to, high CC and large amount of burst. That 25 damage reduction is very, very viable when it comes to that.
I see what you're saying, but I think Sixth Sense does the same job. And the question at this tier is going to be, is Nimble Defender better against getting bursted, or is Sixth Sense better against being bursted?
See, I agree with what you're saying. The only reason I think that the 25% bonus damage is because it's from all sources, number one, and the number two is going to be that it's only while your E is active do you get the benefit coming from Sixth Sense, and Sixth Sense is a 15-second cooldown. Or your evasion is. So you either get every 4 seconds you get 25% damage reduction from everything, or from only 2 spells every 16 seconds. I think the W is going to come in to be more cost effective, but obviously I might not be totally correct in that, but that was my initial thought after playing him. I really felt like you would avoid Sixth Sense and go Nimble.
It makes sense, at least what you're saying, to like have it over multiple things instead of having a lot of protection for short time and then, you will die.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to actually depend on the comp. Like, maybe...
I agree with that. I think it's comp dependent.
Maybe we'll need to see, like, 3 abilities, and it doesn't end when evasion ends to make Sixth Sense do its job better. But, I mean, I think it's pretty interesting tier overall.
Yeah, because, I mean, overall as well, I mean, evasion does have a slight duration increase, and also the ability damage reduction increase because of the block kind of from 50% to 75%. So, yeah, I have to agree. I think the kind of comp dependency is very interesting in that regard too. Looking down what else we actually have in here, is there anything in particular that we're missing out on, boys?
I think his level 7 is something that I think is really crucial to talk about. So we got adjustments. So his 7, we have the option to go reflexive block, so that your die provides the block that we were talking about that doesn't work with your evasion.
Yep.
So you get 3 blocks, or you get the opportunity to get bonus 20% to your passive when it comes to your auto attacking, which is an immense amount of sustain, but then also the 25 bonus damage that you can get from spells cast.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think all these are kind of viable. I think 2 of them, I think one specifically is very niche, which is the AA, one getting the block. I actually don't find it that appealing in most situations.
Okay.
I've fallen kind of in love with Hunter's Onslaught right now.
Because it stacks with the Marked for Death.
Marked for Death.
Oh,
yes. So just so you know, that means that by the time you get at 16, if you get any auto attacks off on a single target with multiple Qs, mix that with your opportunity at 4, have the opportunity to get your Q range increased by 33%, and it'll go to allies. So essentially increases your probability of getting a Q on the same target, and then it will burst you at level 16 for a 200 healing every 6 seconds. That's not considering if you got an auto attack off, not considering you also have 25% damage reduction every 6 seconds as well, not considering auto attacks in that situation, or considering auto attacks in that situation. So it's just like this constant healing blow up.
Do you have
that's where I've kind of fallen with them, but I think that talent's going to have a lot of options. So
okay. All right. Do you have any thoughts on that, Alex, at the moment?
No, not anything different. It's really hard to look on them and see the differences because, the talents it's a bit complicated to look at. I at least have problems.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay. So, final, in terms of Illidan here, final thoughts on this, in terms of how you've been building him, Dread, what if you go down to the list, the tiers, what are you really building him as here?
Kind of the same way that he was. He just has more burst post 16. He still struggles. He struggles harder against hard CC and struggles harder against burst than he ever has. But he excels greater against sustained DPS and at killing the backline than he ever has. Like, the amount of burst, if you isolate a target at 16 tier and you isolate one individual who has only one minor, even if they have a gap closer, it doesn't matter because you will catch up to him. You will kill them 100% of the time.
Alright, I need to just quickly grab ourselves Illidan. Where are you, Illidan? Is this actually the... Oh, okay.
PTR version?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the PTR version. Okay. Who linked me this build? Somebody linked me this build.
That was mine. That was my version of the build.
Okay.
That's why I really like it.
So, I can't actually fit this on my screen. Let me see if I can scroll out a little bit.
I think Unbound 4 is also kind of viable sometimes.
Why is that? Just out of curiosity? Because I actually tested it and I felt like I just had no weight.
I feel like on Cursed, it's more effective at getting me out than Vendor Fair. Like Cursed specifically, because especially when you push into their side of the map, like for these tribute fights, you can use it to go over the walls, and that gives you more distance generally than Vendor Fair does. That's just how I feel.
Okay.
I can see it. The biggest disappointment that I had from this talent is actually when it counts enemies, it counts enemy structures. So if you do anything that hits an enemy structure, you essentially don't get the reset.
All right.
Pretty disappointing, I would agree.
Yeah, it was pretty. I was just like, well, that's lame. Because I was thinking like the cool dashes. I don't know, but turned out not as optimal as I'd hoped.
So this is the build you are recommending currently here, Dread.
I don't know if I'd straight recommend is like the answer, but it's definitely interesting to play out. That's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only gotten a few games. There's so many changes, right? That like even a day in, like or 2 days in, like there's so much to test. And even then, it's like PTR gives such skewed results in half the testing scenarios that like it's totally unreliable to like completely calculate. But I do feel like this is one that I like where it's at least headed, even if it's not fully optimal. I think it's close and it's definitely entertaining.
Okay, fair play, fair play. I think we should probably move on from Illidan because we've been talking about him to death. The thing is that we have limited time here, guys, on State of the Nexus, so we have still...
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. We could go on
Yeah,
for
no
hours
joke.
and hours, but we don't want to we don't want a 4-hour podcast for people to just be like, this is too long. So let me open on another Heroes Nexus thing. Are these talents updated as well for kael'thas? If I just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
You
year
have a
is
tab.
updated.
Yeah, in the very top right of the hero picture, it has a tab on what version you want to see, and you go PTR.
Oh.
Where did you
you're
say?
right. I've got it, yeah. Top right, just above the character model, on the next Heroes Nexus. Do you see that, Alex?
I really don't.
Oh.
Wait.
Maybe
okay.
you can link... Oh, I see it.
Hey!
Got him.
Oh, thank you.
The
Hey.
slider.
Right.
Alright, on to kael'thas, boys. kael'thas has had quite a few changes. It's not easy for me to see where the changes are on this little tier thing, of course. Let's go over to the notes for a brief moment. Significant changes, gathering power removed, and venom removed. He has a new questing talent, guys.
He has 2 actually at level 1.
2 questing talents, yes. So there was already the Arcane Barrier Mana Addict one that we spoke about before, right? I don't really think we need to go into that too much, actually, because we already spoke about the
I'm
idea.
pretty sure we covered that one, yeah.
Yeah. And then there is... What's the other one? Is it the Fel Infusion? Or
Convection.
Alright, okay, the Convection.
Convection at 1.
Let me close Illidan tab. That makes things easier. So, where are we at? Convection. Now increases Flame Strike's damage by 5 for each enemy hero hit by Flame Strike, up to 100. Lost all bonus damage on death. Once Flame Strike reaches 100 damage, gain an extra 50 bonus damage and keep all damage bonuses permanently. Is this enough to take over the utility of Mana Addict and thus Arcane Barrier later on down the line?
I don't know about competitively. I think in solo queue you can get away with it.
It's also... I could imagine it being hard to get the full stacks without dying, maybe? Oh no, I think it's normally hard to hit your Flame Strike.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty difficult,
Especially with the range talent being removed. Flamethrower, that's no longer here. Like, I think you're going to struggle. And he's not a survivable hero. He's got a low health pool. He's got no gap players there. So, he's going to definitely be vulnerable with this talent.
And the early game, I think he needs to focus on clearing waves instead of trying to hit heroes. So it will be I think it will go against his playstyle to pick this talent and try to stack.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think it also pulls away from like later in his tiers too. He is very mana independent still, and Mana Addict being an option to kind of heal for that. At 4, you get the option to get a little bit of your max mana, but it's not nearly as effective as looking at Mana Addict. And if you move towards that kind of poke-centric style of play with him, especially if you're moving into Pyromaniac for any reason, he needs the mana.
And let's not forget, of course, actually, the changes to kael'thas now mean that Chain Bomb is actually built into Living Bomb from level 1, right? So are we anticipating like a lot of those kind of talents based forwards towards that becoming a thing? Let's take a look at what we actually have here.
The important thing to know is you can no longer double cast Living Bomb on the same target.
Yeah. That's very true.
No, it's really irrelevant in the sense that everybody can react to Chain Bomb now, where it's not just like, oh, cancer's everywhere. It's like, oh, you have a bomb and you have a bomb, so if we go like this, it's really good for our team. So it's definitely... It's one of those changes that I think if Chain Bomb wasn't so dominant for the meta for so long that I don't think it would actually be that healthy for the game right now. But since everybody's so afraid of stacking bombs, that like everybody just instantly splits and kael'thas instantly feels the pain really early.
Everyone's been conditioned to it over a certain period of time.
And
we're like, oh god, it's back. kael'thas is back, potentially. Alright, so let's see what else we have going on here.
So fairly infused at level 1. I just want to highlight, I really like this idea. I think Dread might actually disagree with me. But the fact of the matter is they wanted you to press D and be able to heal. But either that heal is broken or it's useless. There's only 2 situations. So they just added 5% ability power when you take this talent. And I like that because it allows them to put that ability, if you press D and you heal, and it doesn't make your hero useless. I actually really like the change they've done there.
I like it a lot too. I actually like even more that it stacks with Fury of the Sunwell. So the second proc to your Flame Strike gains all benefits that are added onto it. So at level 1, if you empower it and you go with Fury of the Sunwell at 16, both strikes will hit with that 5% bonus DPS.
I overall like the level 1 talents a lot, the new level 1 talents for kael'thas. They all seem really interesting, powerful, and you will play a bit around your talents. I like it a lot.
Okay. Let's see where we can move on to in terms of what we've got still going on. There's so many things to talk about, really.
Yeah.
His level 4s are crazy now. Looking at them, like Gravity Labs specifically, now concentrating into Gravity Labs, so you'll have 30% increased range, and then also refund some of the mana, so obviously long-range poke-style stuns, but then Energy Roll, which then reduces the cooldown by 7 seconds if it gets hit. A Pyromaniac, if you throw a bomb onto 2 targets, hit a Pyromaniac, your stun's on a 1-second cooldown. It's pretty neat in that sense, and then you also still have Mana Tap where you can restore mana and kind of help out there. That compensates and forces Mana Act to not be a must at 1, so I actually really like Mana Tap being a viable option. But the Energy Roll and Netherwind both, I think, are really cool looks at kind of what could happen. I think Energy Roll, even without Pyromaniac, unless you really do need the long distance, because you don't have the speed on it like you did before, I think it's a little bit harder to hit those long-range lapses like you once would.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually really like the synergy that Energy Royal has with his level 7, and subsequently, I believe it's Pyromaniac, 13. Which is you throw it, and then the level 7 Gravity Crush, it causes them to take 25% additional damage only from kael'thas. So it's kael'thas' own Tyrande mark on his stun.
Yep.
And if you use Pyromaniac with it, then you then have another stun as soon as Gravity Crush ends. So you can get 8 seconds of dealing 25% increased damage to this target. And it's a really nice comboing synergy, which does not lock you into these talents. If you want to throw a lot of stuns, but you also want to do a lot of damage, then you can take Energy Roll, and you don't have to take Gravity Crush, and you don't even have to take Pyromaniac. But
they're all viable.
yeah, they're not locked into each other, but when you pair them, it's a really nice combo. And that's really good design for a talent tier, I think.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Because, I mean, even Pyromaniac at level 13, you've still got things like Fission Bomb, which, you know, it does what it did before. It increases the explosion radius.
So Backdraft as well.
Backdraft is something that's usable now by the looks of things. So, that's kind of cool. Was there any changes to Pyroblast or Phoenix? I don't think there was, right?
Pyroblast's upgrade at level 20 was upgraded by a large margin. Other than that, I don't believe there was any adjustments. It has a 50% radius now, and it reduces the cooldown by 25% per hero hit.
Okay.
I thought that was last patch.
Maybe
I think the
explosion
explosion radius maybe.
I think it was untouched this patch, but...
I'm checking it. I'm going.
Anyway, we've breezed over our level 13s as well. Moving on to level 16s, we have Fury of the Sunwell, Sun King's Fury, and Twin Spheres. Twin Spheres, that was something that very excited me quite a lot, actually. The ability to trigger your Verdant Spheres twice. You have 2 charges of Verdant Spheres. Any thoughts on that to start things off?
I think
Big Three was right, by the way. It was last patch. But anyways, keep going, Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go.
No, you can.
Okay. I think it's really cool. I am not sure how good it will be, but yeah, I think it's cool. But I think Fury of the Sun will in many situations be better. It's really hard to say. I think it could be really good and it could be useless.
Okay. I actually think this talent is really, really good. Because, again, this synergizes so well with Burn Flesh at level 7. And, again, it's not a locked-in synergy. Like, so does Fury of the Sunwell. That also synergizes really well. But when you take Burn Flesh and you Verdant Spheres your E, and you hit, like... maybe 3 people, and then you hit 3 people with your Flame Strike, and you do 8% of their max health to all of them. Like, there's so many combos in this kit, and Twin Spheres just makes it way easier to combo these different skills together. Like, just your base skills, like comboing a, like, double Living Bomb with a Gravity Lapse, like, even, like, yeah, I just think it's, like, you can get 3 Living Bombs now. Like, I just really love how much skill is being added into kael'thas' kit. Yeah. And one of the biggest changes, by the way, is the fact that Living Bomb now has almost instant cast time, which is actually huge. Because it means that, like, before it took, like, 0.5 seconds to cast, I'd say. But giving it instant cast time, but not allowing you to double cast it, basically makes him, if you're skilled, able to position much better and be able to get into a riskier position to cast your double bombs, which are both instant, and then get out again because there is no cast time. Like, you can immediately walk back. So I feel like that was actually a great change that nobody asked for, by the way.
It does seem, I mean, to what you're saying, it does seem like they are increasing, like, or doing so much work on these reworks to the point where you have a lot of options, and it is in turn increasing the skill cap quite heavily. Because I think about the idea of the double Verdant Spheres, and I think about a Verdant Sphered Gravity Lapse into a Verdant Sphered Living Bomb, and then if you think about the idea of Gravity Crush before, they're all taking 25% damage extra from you anyway. All of these things are very, very cool to kind of work in tandem with one another. Dredd, do you have any thoughts on our level 16 talents at the moment?
I honestly, kael'thas is a hero who has changed so drastically and has so much potential that I'm not even going to really say whether or not I think he's a god or if I think he's trash. I agree with a lot of what's been said today, and I think there's a lot of potential coming from his kit, but he, in my opinion, is probably the least straightforward on where he stands right now. Even though he has, like, moments where you're just like, this could be crazy. I look at him and I'm like, this could also be just trash. So it's like, but overall, I think he's going to be in a positive spot. I do like a lot of what they've done with this kit overall, and I agree with the lack of the skill implemented with the lack of locking you into certain style of play. Awesome. Everything about the changes to him were great. Just whether or not I think they're the best in the world, like the healthiest, I don't quite know yet. I'm just the thing that I find actually most interesting right now is a lot of the reworks are actually if you look at kael'thas actually only has 3 talent tier options at almost every tier, and that's the same with Sylvanas now. And a lot of the reworks, it seems like they're actually locating instead of that 4 option was the standard with a variable of 5, it's going to be 3 with a variable of 4 when it comes out as talent tiers. I want to know if the game is kind of headed in that direction. It's something interesting to look at.
Yeah, if they can like really add proper weight and value to all the options, then. Even though you're taking away from that 5 or potential 5-4, then, I mean, it looks like there are so many options. Let's move on briefly to the level 20 talent as well. Master.
I just want to close up level 16 briefly and say that although it's really interesting what they're doing, Sun King's Fury is broken, and we're going to see that one every game. So that is a shame, but...
Oh, wait, how much
you think
does
so?
it actually do?
It's like it's ridiculous.
417 base.
Like so.
Oh, it's bonus damage.
Yeah.
It's to everyone affected by Living Bomb, not the primary target.
Everyone affected.
Oh, I misunderstood that talent. I thought it was like the old. I think it was like the old level 7 talent. I think it was. You know, you cast a thing, and then your next auto attack is a beam or something like that.
Yeah.
No, it's everybody who gets your basic attacks against any target that's affected by Living Bomb is large. I haven't played around with it actually.
I mean, I've played with Stim Drone Kael'thas, and we like one-shot mirrored him with this. It was ridiculous.
Is it that broken? Is it? So wait, broken. if you chain bomb, and you do consecutive auto attacks against the same target, do you get more than one proc on one target?
Yeah, it procs infinitely.
That's okay. That's
going. And then
that makes no sense. That makes no sense.
And then you
Why
cast
would
the second
they do
chain
that? Oh my gosh. Okay.
So you just
yeah. Like I said, he was the one I've only gotten to play. I only got to play one game, and it was on stream, and it was like kind of like a troll poke oriented, where I was like doing a full Q build, so I didn't even get to try that out. And I also didn't realize it affected everyone, and I thought you only got one like proc. I thought like Alex. I thought you threw out your W and you hit somebody really hard, and that's pretty cool. Like that seems to affect, but no, if it's like a one auto attack on a single target, you're like, oh, so I prop my W on you, and I hit you with any kind of stun, and you're just dead. Yeah, that seems legit. I don't like that.
I also didn't read it the same way. Oh my god. Alright. Right, we're moving on from Sun King's Fury. That sounds insane. Master of Flames, Living Bomb can now spread indefinitely between enemy heroes. Like, it sounds good in theory, but I think a lot of people are going to be able to move away from one another. What do you guys think?
Yeah, in practice is not as insane as it seems.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think it's good, but I don't think it's as insane. When you read it, you're just like, this is the most broken. There's chain bombs everywhere. But since chain bombs no longer go through minions, they're hero like dependent now. It's not nearly as just like everything just gets killed and it just spreads like cancer like it was.
I mean, if two people ever stand together with a chain bomb, though, it then stacks to other people, and then because the second one explodes after the first one explodes, they then explode again and again and again. So if two people stand together, it's like a chain reaction. It deals so much damage.
Just gonna pop.
But if anybody does that, like, you deserve to lose the game. So like, I agree that like your talent, is it broken? No, I feel like if you stand next to each other with chain bombs and it's just going and swapping back and forth, you deserve to lose the game.
Unless you VP, you cast it on two people and then VP them.
They still would have the decent reaction time. Wait. You grapple bomb
just
them
level
together. You grapple them together, and then everybody gets hit by it.
Oh.
Right. Anyway,
a beautiful thing. So in terms of like builds that we've been working with kael'thas, is it really too early to say what's going to be?
Far too early. Other than Sun King's Fury, this guy, I think we might actually see multiple builds.
Yeah.
On kael'thas.
Shut up.
I know that's crazy.
You what? Okay. All right. Moving on from kael'thas, because we are going long, boys. All right. Where are we at? Tychus. Who thought we'd be bringing his name up? Tychus has been reworked. I need to click on Tychus. There you are. All right. So let's see. Everything at level 1 is dashes.
Before we even touch the talents, can I just just a general question? When you look at Tychus' kit before this rework, what was his biggest problem? Just in general.
I'd say his range.
You feel like it was his range? Okay.
I think that he could not auto-attack and could basically only do damage through his Q and W.
Well, like, he wasn't really mobile, his hitbox was huge, and his health was super low, and his range was super low. So it was impossible to position.
I mean, I agree with all what you guys are saying. When I view, like, why do I dislike Tychus? It's like, all of his kit, I understand what you're saying, but I could rip squishies apart, and I could maybe outplay my opponents at time, but it's like, for me, it was just like, every time I ult, you walk away from it and you laugh, and I just feel like every time still, I ult and you walk away, and I'm like, well, sorry guys, I'll just keep being Tychus.
We did have this discussion last week, didn't we? Actually,
yeah, and it's the same. That was my biggest disappointment. I love Odin and Laser, I really do. I think the Laser is one of the funnest things in the game. I think Odin is awesome too, but it just feels so easy to just be like, guys, Laser's out, just don't fight for this amount of time at this objective, and like, I don't know, it just seems. Maybe I'm wrong about it. Maybe the rest of his kit is that awesome. I've only gotten to play 2 games on him, so I don't know for sure. But
no, I haven't.
I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I also want to argue that, like, so you're playing Sky Temple, right? You drop the Odin, like, so you get to the shrine.
Okay, but Sky Temple was a specific, like, one map out of like 8 that we're looking at here. I agree. In those few situations where it's like in like Infernal Shrines, it gets you an advantage in that type of situation. I agree there, but it's like I just feel like overall, in most situations, if you're heroic, it's easy to walk away from. Archon struggled from the same thing early on as well during its release. You can win that one objective in some maps that will win you the game, but not all of them, and that kind of hurts those heroes on those specific maps.
Like, here's the thing, is I feel like Tychus in his Odin, and Tychus out of his Odin, are now both good, to the point where, although Odin's, like, really, really good, and normal Tychus is just good, you can use the Odin, like, and you can use his ultimates as a tool to deny the objective. Like, so if you're playing Infernal Shrines and you pop the Odin and you finish the shrine with it, you can then push with that Punisher, and you can be 95% as effective as you would otherwise have been with that ultimate, which might be really bad design, but I actually quite like it.
I could see it.
Do you have a build that you ran? Do you have any, like at least level 1s, I felt like 2 of them are useless. One's kind of, and the other's just blatantly stronger than the remainder.
So it's this, like, the latter 2, I feel, are the good ones.
What did you say?
The back 2, Dash and Combat Technician?
Yeah.
Or Tactician? Interesting, okay.
They're all here, yeah.
So you like the quest, right? We have a quest there as the survivability, so essentially getting the reset. Okay, so there was survivability, and then getting the reset on your E.
At 4, I feel like the bigger they are, I don't feel like I got too much value from it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Bigger they are.
In the rhythm felt really, really good. And Master Assassin felt okay.
That was the quest that I said made no sense to me. That one specifically, just like, we'll give you 10% eventually. We'll figure it out. Like, it's like you can't lose it. It just eventually you're gonna get it. Like, it's like the globes are like kind of a thing, but like where you might not get them 100% because laning phase doesn't last that long. But Master's Assassin specifically, there is 100% unless you lose in 10 minutes, you will get this one. Like, what that was. This to me was the biggest quest where I was like, why? Why even call it a quest? Just give him
Next one was hello? Like,
And did I drop out only, or was it you guys as well?
I liked it.
No, I dropped out.
Okay.
I think it was all of us, but whatever. It seems it's okay now. You guys can still hear me, right?
yeah.
All right, great, cool. There was the Master Assassin quest thing that you guys were talking about. Where did we? You guys covered the level 1s and level 4s, right? I haven't played Titus at all, so you guys are basically guiding me through this one.
I played with Combat Tactician. I felt useless. The reset MIE, it just felt so like, oh, congratulations, I can E again. I felt like survivability was my biggest problem the whole time on Tychus. So I felt like the range. I haven't tried dash. That's something I got to test out. I also felt like shrug it off might be a thing just because I'm always in their face. So that again, the bonus damage reduction. But this is something I haven't played enough to really know. I want to try dash now that you said that. And also the increased range. I just felt survivability was my main issue. I also went into Master Assassin, and it felt like, okay, I can tell you, when you get this, if you play, one thing Tychus has insanely always been good at, and it's no exception, especially with Master Assassin, is he rips bosses apart. Like, insane level of just destroying a boss right now. And it was like, there was like a situation where my opponents like went to go take my keep, and I just stole their boss, like with me and one other person, just because we could do it so fast. So I think there's a lot of cool things when it comes to that. Minigun being on a shorter cooldown, I felt like I was pretty poor when it came to auto attacking unless minigun was up. So I can see that maybe seeing something that's relevant with play. I wasn't too impressed with Master Assassin other than the boss. Bigger they are, I just feel like the bonus damage from minigun isn't justified in that situation. 7, I think, is one of the most interesting talents.
What do we have for 7? Let's see.
You have increased range on your nade, increased radius on your grenade by 25% with knockback distance, and Relentless Soldier, which is 33% like relentless.
Right.
I like that too. I feel playing with a quarterback is really, really nice. Because you also poke insanely hard when you get Titan Grenade at 16.
Yeah, that was something
like
I didn't go in my build. I wanted to try the bonus armor piercing rounds, which felt useless.
Deals bonus oh wow, yeah. Okay.
So I can understand quarterback being really good poke.
Yep. Are there any changes up at level 13? That's the stuff, and Neo Steel coding.
Neo Steel coding is the thing that everybody's asked to replace Spell Shield for a year and finally got implemented. Why is it only on Tychus? Why is that only on Tychus? This was the coolest talent in the entire patch. Neo Steel coding. It is awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Why can't everybody get that? Like, make anti-mage a skill-oriented and like an actual answer rather than Giant Killer proccing your Spell Shield and then Li Ming coming in and just giving you the whole reset, you know?
Exactly. That in essence has like a bit more of a higher skill cap, right? I mean, you see the Li Ming combo coming in, you go pop Neo Steel coding, cool stuff, because you see it coming and you're reacting as opposed to it's just like randomly passive. You're totally right. That is a fantastic talent.
I think it's so awkward. Like, I agree with Dreadnought. I think they should change the talent to be like Neo Steel coding. I think it's just like smooth, and it would be good for the game and
rewarding. It feels rewarding, right?
And you have to use your brain.
I did it yesterday when his Sunder was coming in on me, and I was just like, I'm a god. Like, Sunder comes in, and I just drop, like, I pop that Neo, and I lay down the laser, and I'm like, I'm ready to go, boys. I was like, I just outplayed this Thrall so hard, and it feels really good. You feel good, and it's effective.
That's beautiful. You were going to say something, Bakery?
I feel there's an element to the game that Spell Shield right now brings, which is when you're setting up for this fight, poking off the Spell Shield is actually pretty skillful and competitive. Like, your team needs to posture correctly and you need to do it safely. And if you're winning, if they have less Spell Shields than you, then your team has an advantage going into the fight, basically. And it's like timing Spell Shields as well. That's an aspect of the game that I like, but I do agree with the other two. I don't think Spell Shield's the place for it, and I would prefer to see Neo Steel Coating be the default Spell Shield.
You raised your hand, Dredd, as if you wanted to reply.
I realized that I agreed with him, so.
Oh, okay.
I like the playstyle too, I just don't think Spell Shield's the place to make it a thing, so.
Yeah. Alright, cool. Where are we at? 16 talents. You were talking about the Titan Grenade before. Is that your kind of full go-to in terms of 16? Or...
Quarterback and Titan Grenade have a really nice synergy, which again, you can take Quarterback to like interrupt tributes or interrupt like Ravenous Spirit.
Yeah.
Not that that's ever going to be a thing, but even if you do take the Quarterback, you can then follow up with any of the other level 16s, but if you don't want them, you can take the poke from Titan Grenade, which again I think is really good design.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the slow on 16 though is good. I think it's really underwhelming compared to...
it being 20% is awful. Like, that needs to be like 40%.
Yeah.
Lead Rain was like powerful when it was 13, and the minute you hit the like third strongest talent tier in the game, you're just like, well, I guess like it's a thing. I don't know. I didn't like it at all. Compared to the other two, I don't think it stands a chance. And I feel like armor piercing is underwhelming. Like I could like. If I got in a situation where I got a Vala isolated, I almost one-shot her with my Q, which felt really satisfying. But is that good? I don't think it was like that great, and I almost never get kind of my Q off in teamfights that well. So I don't know. I don't feel like I like the adjustments. The lack of Q at level 1 as well. The original 20% is very like you feel it very quickly that you don't have that damage through your Q.
Do you then think that Titan Grenade is the only go-to talent on 16?
I don't think it's right now. Yes,
I think it's better in almost every situation. I do think that if your team comp doesn't need like that kind of burst poke, I think like he kind of provides the Illidan effect in the sense that if you get the front line dead and a squishy wants to move up to do anything, armor piercing rounds literally says no. And then stack that with Neo Steel coating, and if you at level 1 decided to go with kind of shrug it off, you have the defensive tools to just go in, and if they turn, you're just still going to kill them, right? It's like almost 100% dead. And so I think it has a few moments, but I do think Titan is definitely more safe and reliable in almost every situation.
All right, boys, I'm going to move you on from the level 16s because we still have 2 more reworks to go through beyond this. A quick coverage of our level 20s, our new level 20s, Bob and Weave and Sizzling Attacks. Any value in either? What do you think?
Bob and Weave feels really good to use, especially when you stack it with Dash at level 1, or any of his level 1s, obviously. They're all run and gun talents. But Dash especially, the movement speed increase stacks. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if that's a bug, but it's so fun when you see a 75% move speed Tychus.
It's almost
like running around. Like, it's so good.
It's almost as fun as our level 20 mind control that we're going to get to later on.
Yeah. Which is almost as fast.
Yeah.
And so I think Bob is really fun. Sizzling Attacks, at first I thought, wow, this is great. And then I realized that Minigun was like an activatable and it was actually better anyway. And I was just kind of disappointed. I felt like it's lacking something. It's kind of boring as a talent.
Any other thoughts on these guys?
Not really. Again, I haven't played enough of them to totally determine. I didn't even get to 20 in the games I got to play on them. So I refuse to believe anything other than laser upgrade exists at level 20 though.
Okay.
It's too fun. So
laser upgrade's so good.
Alex, no thoughts on these? Or?
Not really.
No. Okay. All right. We can move on from Tychus then. We have 2 more to cover. Where we going? We're going to Gazlowe. Oh, I'm so happy. This is going to be great. All right, I need to open up Gazlowe as well on this. I admit I was a little bit loud there for midnight, and now my neighbours are probably angry at me. There's Gazlowe. I found you. All right, so Gazlowe. Actually, when I looked through it, he hasn't actually had too many moves or extra talents added, but there's quite a few changes here. So has anybody got to play Gazlowe properly in his rework?
No,
sadly not.
I literally looked at him and it was just like, these aren't enough changes for me to care, and I just didn't play him.
Like a lot of it seems to revolve around the idea of more scrap. That was the level 20 thing. Where it's like go on, Bakery.
A few of the talents that I saw I thought were really good design, but in the end, he's still Gazlowe, so it doesn't really matter. Like, Raining Scrap I thought was really cool. Fire My Laser I thought was really cool. The fact that Robo Goblin, you can now manually target the turrets, I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But the turret health hasn't increased. Like... He's still got no escape until 13. Like, it's still impossible to hit a stun. Like, his laser still stuns him for 3 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
It's still Gazlo. He's still awful.
It feels like it's one of the more underwhelming reworks out of the 5, right?
There were a lot of interesting concepts that went in, but they wanted to keep the core identity of the hero much closer to the current form than I would have liked.
Right, I get you. I mean, like, I actually play a lot of Gazlo because I find him really fun, but who would be surprised by that, eh? But things like Arc Reactor, for example, at level 4, resets the cooldown of your Explodium charge by 2 seconds as 2 charges of Rocket Thing when it hits an enemy with Explodium Bomb. How often do you actually get to hit somebody that early in the game with Explodium Bomb, unless you kind of have it scaling into the later situations? So, I mean, looking at these talents, guys, beyond things like firing my laser and it's raining scrap, is there anything that really excites you here?
I think the level 16 Goblin Fusion, I think it's called,
Well,
can...
Goblin Fusion moved from level 4 to 16? Or
yeah,
are you...
but its damage boost is increased by 100%. It was not 100% before, right?
Yeah, it's like 50 before,
Yeah.
maybe?
I played versus. That's the only I got to see Gazlo. He felt it like a bit as the same hero, but then at 16 I just like suddenly got hit by a laser and I was like, that damaged a lot. And then it was that talent.
Okay.
But apart from that, I didn't feel like it's a new Gazlo.
Right. Okay. Just trying to look down and see if there's any more like things that really stand out. So overall, we don't really think that this rework is something that's going to kind of cause too many waves.
No, he's still going to throw down his turrets, and you're still going to be like, guys, if we don't stand in all 5 of those, we don't lose this game.
Yeah. I when it goes live, I probably will play it a few times and play with firing my lasers just so I can set up and hopefully blow someone up in one shot. But beyond that, we're not too blown away by poor Gaz, I think.
He's at least entertaining now. I'll give him that.
Yeah, there is that.
He's got, in my opinion, one of the coolest ults in the game. I think Gravel Bomb 3000 is just awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely.
I just think everything else about him is just so why that it's just like, I don't know. It's honestly, this isn't the first game to kind of struggle with that turret concept either. I think it's just really hard to make in the MOBA genre.
Yeah.
Because the minute you tweak it a little bit too far, it can be insane. So you don't want it to be like just like, well, here's like the army wall that is known as the Great Wall of Gazlo, and you can't cross it or you die. So it's rough. But
do you think a talent that would allow him to pick up his turrets and move them, like basically just replace a charge, and just instantly, and just being able to move them around really, really quickly would help in that effect, or?
I think you have to. I think his stun has to be more reliable outside of Gravel. Mm-hmm. If you just change his E, I think he becomes far more relevant. His turrets are off it like awesome. I think his W can hurt at times. It might cost a little bit too much time for how much damage it does, and it's pretty predictable when it's coming out. But I think if you just make it to where, like, can you imagine if you move into Gazlo and you actually have to worry about him stunning you? Just think about that alone. Like, just imagine if you walk into a Gazlo's village and like he actually can stun you, and it's not like, hey, I stood still for 2 seconds and he got a lucky stun. It's like he actually just goes, you're stunned. It's like he's not gonna kill you, but he's gonna be able to go blow for blow at least. Yeah. He's gonna be able to do things he's never been able to do before. It's just I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of other things that could be done with him. But right now we are not there. I honestly thought the rework was gonna be like Sylvanas level. And it came out and to be literally the least impactful, not even impactful, like drastic adjustments was to the hero who has been notoriously known to need a rework longer than almost every hero in the game, other than maybe Arthas post like gutting him. Maybe.
I mean, I'm reading down the changes a little further, and like the build that I used to do or still do on live with Gaz, like relies a lot on hyper focus coils to actually get going. So to move that to an earlier talent level actually affect it a little bit, but not to the effect where it's going to like really impact any competitive play. So because now you can charge your laser quicker earlier, which is nice, but that's about it. So anyway, moving on from Gaz, we'll see you soon. Miniature Black Hole and Gravel Bomb are super cool, but GG. Alright, Sylvanas, boys. Sylvanas, we are here. She has had quite a few changes, to say the least. A lot of shuffling around of talents. I almost started with mind control, but I'll hold off on that for a moment. Where do we want to go with this, boys?
There's a lot to touch upon. Holy cow! I think we should go through talent tiers again.
Sure.
Yeah, I imagine so.
All right.
Wait, was there anything they changed about the base kit before we jump into talents?
No,
I think they
there
upped
was
the damage on the auto attack.
Yeah.
her Q.
And up
Her
the damage
Q.
on the Q.
Yeah,
Pretty
her Q
significant
damage.
buffs to Q and auto attack, and I think that was it. Okay.
All right. So let's start with our level 1s then. What we've got. We have Overflowing Quiver. Whenever a nearby enemy minion dies, a free quiver goes to slot. Cannot be used whenever. Paralysis increases Black Arrow duration by 75%. Mercenary Queen. Friendly non-boss mercenaries now deal 50% more damage. So a Merc Lord at level 1, which is not something I expected to really enter her kit. What do you guys think?
I think the level 1 talents are really bad.
This is the shittest tier I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is a rework. Like,
Yeah,
what the hell were they thinking?
It's not
If
great.
you compare kael'thas level 1 to this level 1, it just feels like... It feels weird. I really like the kael'thas one, a lot of change, a lot of interesting stuff, and here you just get stuff you don't want to have.
Even Mercenary Queen, even if it was Mercenary Lord at level 1, this would be a bad talent. But the fact that it's taken the least influential half of Mercenary Lord, it's only the damage. The main part of Merc Lord was the fact that you couldn't kill them. Like,
Yeah,
you
that's
had to
what
clear
you
the
fear,
camp.
Merc Lord. Yeah, you're like, it's like, do we have like 3 wave clear heroes? Because otherwise, this isn't dying, boy. It's like, I agree with you there. That part of it makes me sad. I think if she got that half, I don't totally hate it. I think it makes her kit do what she's good at because, like, in the mid to late game, it's like, it's in the mid to late game, right? You get in that point where you're like, what, can we siege a keep? And you're like, Sylph, we probably can. We can disable. But then if you have a camp with you, it very much makes it to where it's like you have a Sylph with Merc Lord. Like, it's going to be really hard to deal with. She didn't lose too much to do so.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. I think Paralysis just generally doesn't have too much uses.
And it also got nerfed, by the way. It went from 100 to 75. I mean, the one good thing about Paralysis is it's stacked with the slow that was previously at 13 and 16, but it's still 1.75. It's still not good, even with this talent.
I think the reasoning for the nerf is because of the 16 pairing, but I don't know. I definitely like Overflowing Quiver. If I was going to play this, I would go Overflowing Quiver. I feel like if you can't get the Barb Shot or With the Wind, which are going to be attributed to later talent tiers, it at least provides better wave clear, which is what she is good at, and what you typically pick Sylph for is because of the wave clear that she provides. So you kind of wave clear and rotate, wave clear, rotate. Overflowing Quiver only helps with that. So.
Yeah, reading it does seem like one of the ways to go. Alright, let's move on to level 4. What do we have here? We have Withering Barrage. Increases Withering Fire charges by 1. Charges can be ejected, is what I'm going to say. 33% faster. With the Wind, increases Withering Fire's range by 25%. And then Lost Soul Shadow Dagger cooldown by 25%. Reduces the cooldown by 1.25 seconds every time it spreads to a hero. So what are we making of our level 4s currently, boys?
It looks underwhelming.
I don't know. With the new Q and auto attacks, though, With the Wind becomes pretty strong.
And so does Withering Barrage. Withering Barrage is meaningful burst. Like, if you take that talent, you have meaningful burst. If you take With the Wind, you have meaningful poke. I really like the trade-off you have for those two talents. Lost Soul, I feel, is pretty underwhelming there.
But who are you gonna
I
burst?
do agree.
Like, it's not like you will get to their backline and suddenly fire.
Have you seen my later talents that I have the options to take now? I could run double E with a 5-second duration. Windrunner, my boy, I walk in, I hit you with those Qs, and just like burst the hell out of you, and then I dash out. I can hit the backline.
Yeah, I agree. And like, especially with Will of the Forsaken,
obviously it's a little too idealistic and a little bit bold, but I don't know. It felt like this rework was literally based around they watched my stream the first day Sylvanas released, and I played double reset Q, and I just dove the backline, bursted them, dove like the other direction, and like stealth the whole time. And they're like, guys, I think this would be a really cool playstyle, and I'm like, why? Like, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I just don't know if it's like. I don't know if it's good, but it definitely synergizes now with Windrunner. That was legit how I played her the very first day. I would like start a team fight, just dive in, E with the stealth and everything, burst them down, and then E out, and then burst everything. I was just spamming Qs and using that as my DPS. And it really hurt. As long as I got the 13 talent where I could hit 2 targets with my Q, I actually would top damage. But that not being an option anymore makes it a little bit more of a struggle. So I don't know. I don't know where I sit on anything about her right now. Honestly, she's a walking like mind control when I see her, which we aren't there yet, but that's the one that scares me the most from when it comes to her.
Oh, yeah. So let's move on to level 7 then, so we can get closer and closer to level 10. We have Barbed Shot deals 200% more damage to minions, mercenaries and monsters. Unstable Poison, minions die under the effect of Black Arrow. Kaboom, kabam, we all know how Unstable Poison works.
I just don't understand.
What's up, buddy?
Why would you move Barbed Shot to the same talent tier as Unstable Poison?
I don't know. It's just like dies.
It literally does the exact same thing, but one's way better than the other.
Yeah, I don't know.
Am I crazy wrong on this?
I always
feel like I'm missing
take
something.
it at level 1 personally. I'll just wait for level 7. It'll be fine. But
The only thing I see Barbed Shot doing better is taking bosses. But it's like...
That's the only thing, though.
Yeah. It feels super useless to take Barbed Shot over Unstable Poison.
Yeah.
I mean, this entire tier is... Okay. We've got 3 talents for them. They all do the same job. If you just stay on the same tier, we won't ruin a talent tree too much. Like, that's honestly what it feels like. I mean, you're never going to take Possession. Like, I mean, it used to be an ultimate. It's now a level 7, and you're still not going to take it. So, I mean...
that sums it up pretty well, yeah.
Yeah. You've got Unstable Poison next to a previous heroic, and you're still like, no, I can't believe. Go on.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, there's 3 talents that do the same job. They're all about controlling the minion wave. But one of these talents actually does control the minion wave.
Yeah, it did. And it actually has the opportunity of maybe punishing your opponents a little bit if they're sieging in the way.
Wait. No. They hot fixed it so that, or they stealth nerfed it.
It does one proc to Alice, doesn't it? It hits at least one.
It does not damage heroes or structures anymore.
Oh, that's lame. Okay, well, never mind. It's just better at clearing the minion wave then.
Yeah. Still really good. Alright, quickly, let's get on to level 10s. Wailing Arrow, nobody cares about that. Mind Control. Alright, boys. We are here. It makes a beautiful noise. It's the most amazing noise in the entire game. Talk to me about Mind Control, guys.
I got into a Hero League game without reading patch notes. And I was Illidan. I wanted to Metamorphosis. And I didn't know what happened. And I just walked into their team. And I wanted to rage quit. Like, it was super fucking stupid.
Alex, that's so funny.
Right. So, yeah, like Alex said, any hero that depends on going in and then using their cooldowns or using their movement abilities to actually live is just going to get completely destroyed by this ability.
I'm willing to promote this cancer just because I want to see this ability changed. For anybody who's ever played this game and you ever siege up at all, ever, what I want you to do is walk up to a fort at like post 10 or a keep, doesn't matter, and have Tassadar pair with your duo queue partner, be Tassadar, provide vision, and then just ult them over the wall and walk them into your team. That is the thing for me, that it just blows my mind. Like, as long as you have vision, she literally just mind controls and goes, guys, no, this isn't a thing. And they just suicide. And you're sieging up. And it's like, how is that a thing? Like, I don't know. I haven't gotten to play and see it enough because it's crazy. I love the idea. I just am like, I think something's got to be changed about it.
Like, I always assumed that this was the direction they were going to be taking. From the progression from Possession when possession was just trash and still is, like, I always thought they were going to go mind control, and I always wondered how they were going to execute it. And I thought to myself, okay, they're going to implement it. And I was like, well, surely the range has to be really good for this to work. And yeah, lo and behold, the range is there.
Yeah.
And it makes for an interesting scenario for sure. Do we want to talk about the level 20 talent for it yet? Because I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Not yet. Okay.
Why does she still have Bolt? What? I don't know. Never mind. We can keep going.
It's not like you're gonna take it anyway. No, but so how I would have liked to see this implemented is instead of having a very big range, to which there's absolutely no counterplay once you see you're getting mind controlled. Like, you can do whatever you want, you're still getting mind controlled. You can cleanse it. I'm pretty sure, I haven't tested it, but maybe you can divine it. Maybe that's the one thing you can do against this.
In theory, you shouldn't be able to because like it changes their health bars and stuff, right? Does it not? No, it just shows their mind control? Okay, well then you should be able to divine it. You should be able to divine it.
Yeah, but if you divine it, do you actually stop the mind control, or do they still walk in?
I don't know, dude. They stopped our only answer, /dance. Like, I don't...
My theory is it makes them invincible, but they're still under the effects of mind control. That's my theory. But anyway, that's gone.
Yeah, so how I would have liked to see this implemented is I would have liked to see a very short range, but when she casts this ability and she mind controls them, she jumps into them. So she, like Banshee form, whatever the hell, goes into the hero and then comes out when the mind control ends. And that does two things. That makes it so she actually has to get herself into a risky position before she can mind control this target. So it still keeps the use case of it. If they come into me, I can mind control them, no issues, right? But if they're sat there fort and they're nowhere near me, I'm not just going to global mind control and then with the level 20 talent, which is 100% extra move speed, sprint them halfway across the map into my core. Like, yeah, I feel like this ability needs to be a lot more risky for the payoff that it has.
With your theory, I like the idea of then Stitch is entering into the meta with helping hands, and when you go into you hook the guy back, and suddenly Sylvanas is in your lines. That'd be nice. But yeah,
shish kebab. You get them both. You save them. You just just
yeah.
It'll be a dream. I think
hook the other.
One thing, an answer for it that I was thinking might be an option because I don't know if it'd be good for solo queue because it forces more coordination, but if either Sylvanas or the target takes damage, it's canceled. That might be too much for where it stands right now, but that was something while you were saying that. That might be another counterplay. I do agree that the risk versus reward is crazy right now, but I would like to see where it kind of goes. And I definitely think they're going to adjust it. The question is how. Yeah. I do like your answer. I just know that Blizzard likes to be like, well, mind control is supposed to be done in one way, which is usually like they decide how it is, and whether that be like just like using your brain powers to get this purple thing on a person.
I mean, speaking as a lore expert here from Lore of
Nexus,
technically, Sylvanas was previously a proper Banshee, right? And Banshees do go into their targets.
Well, then that would be really good.
That's what I said.
That would be actually
Banshee
like
form,
really good.
Jump in.
Yep. Yeah.
That would be. I would like that a lot. I actually really like that idea then. Windrunner at 13 though, boys.
All right, we're on to our 13s. Enough mind control then. Where are you with your Windrunner? Go on, start us off whilst I'm looking at things.
So Life Drain at 13 still there. Windrunner essentially has been changed to where it fully recharges your Withering Fire. So every time you use your E, you get more E, which if paired with the 16, again, is an immense amount of burst. But then also it can use every 5 seconds, or not every 5, but within 5 seconds. So you can actually go in and do a lot and then actually E back out or decide not to and just get a lot of burst onto a single target. We have Will of Forsaken has been moved to 13 and then Spell Shield. So again, another 13 tier defensive tool that's activatable and promotes play that's actually healthy for the game. Hooray! We're doing it slowly but surely.
Yay!
But I love the idea with Windrunner. I just don't know if it's realistic. I love the idea of it though.
Yeah, it does seem cool. Bakery, Alex, do you have any thoughts on the level 13s here?
So you can go.
No, carry on.
Okay, I think it's like the Windrunner is super cool, and I also like Will of Forsaken, but I don't know. I feel like it's... I don't know, I feel it's awkward in some ways. I cannot quite explain it, but the only really offensive talent is Windrunner, and it's... Yeah.
Sketchy.
Yeah.
Sketchy is one word for it.
It doesn't have
all that.
like the old movement speed where you just run in and can kite and can do a lot of offensive stuff. I feel like there's not so much to do.
I think Will of the Forsaken is actually an offensive talent in at least some scenarios, because it makes you unstoppable and it gives you 30% move speed, right? I feel like you can actually just frontline with this. I mean,
You
like,
can.
no one can interrupt you casting your E. As soon as you see damage about to come down, you press, like, reactivate the E. And you just run in, and then you E back out after the 3 seconds, basically. And I mean, it's also really good defensively. Like, I think Will of the Forsaken is super interesting. And I think Windrunner as well, it's offensive and defensive. You can double E out, or you can E in and then back out. So there's two really interesting dynamic talents on that tier. And then there's Spell Shield and Life Drain.
Got him. Just...
Alright then. They are there. Alright, we're moving on then, boys. It's time for 16. We have Evasive Fire, which is the movement speed buff from... that was originally 13, right? It was.
It was
16. Cold Embrace, which is basically Northern Exposure, all that good doodah stuff with the 20.
Yeah, but didn't they adjust that? Am I crazy?
Yeah,
I
it
feel
got
like
nerfed, so
tweaked
it's
it.
now only the primary target gets the vulnerable. Nobody.
Yeah, so it doesn't spread to everybody like it did. It's only whoever you put it on, which is a huge nerf.
Yeah.
Huge.
Big deal. Then what else do we have in there? Fury of the Storm. That was highlighted over the wrong thing. Overwhelming Affliction. Black arrows now apply to heroes, slowing their movement speed by 6% for the duration. Stacks up to 5 times. That was prior as well. And then Remorseless.
That was also a 13, yeah.
Yeah. And then Remorseless. After using an ability, your next basic attack within 3 seconds deals 40% extra damage. So what are we thinking here in terms of 16?
Really like the fact that they've given her follow-through, and it's actually a meaningful amount of damage.
Yeah, it seems like...
And it's properly balanced around her kit as well. I really, really like that.
I would agree with that. I just don't... I don't know if it's... Like I said, I haven't gotten to play her enough either. She's a hero that's... I like the mobility that's provided from Evasive Fire if you run with that Windrunner style play. I'm not too hot on Cold Embrace right now just because of how large the nerf was to it. I don't think it's bad by any means.
Yeah,
but
I don't like it.
I don't go like, you know what? I really need Cold Embrace like when I play in solo queue. I feel like comparatively I don't enjoy it so much. Competitively it's a different story because Focus Fire's really hard to deal with competitively. The slow, overwhelming affliction is always good. It was just hard to take compared to the mobility. And again, it comes down to, do you want to utilize your team like and help them get kills better, or do you want to help your mobility? Most of the time, I preferred the mobility for myself.
Yeah.
Again, comes down to it. So then it comes down to like whether or not Remorseless actually has the damage that is justified, and I don't know. With the Q buff and everything else with the auto attack buff, it seems like the answer would be yeah, but I haven't gotten to see it and test it enough to know.
Okay. Alex, any thoughts on 16s?
I think the Cold Embrace nerf was really good. Hopefully it will make it more balanced. But it's really hard to say. I didn't get to play Sylvanas yet myself.
Okay.
But it looks interesting for sure.
Yeah.
I actually really disagree with that. Like, the only reason Cold Embrace was taken every game, like, in her current form, is because every other talent out of that tier was bad.
Yeah, it seems
Blood
that
for...
way.
She has Blood for Blood, right?
Yeah, she had BFB.
I would not consider BFB as a talent, but I would pretty much never take BFB. Because... I don't know, I think don't you think Cold Embrace would be picked pretty much every game if it still split to all heroes?
No, I actually don't think so.
No, I think Evasive Fire still has merit there, don't you think?
Like, I think Evasive Fire still has merit. I think the slow, The slow before, the only time when you played it, you would play a controlling build based on your Shadow Dagger with the vulnerable, and you would spread it to multiple people. That would tick like 3 times, and then you'd get 18% slow on every target, right? So that was the one application of it. And obviously, since you got the vulnerable, it would be a decent amount of poke. Now that you can't take Cold Embrace and Overwhelming Affliction, I feel like it's a much weaker talent. So I don't think we'll see that one. But Remorseless, I feel like it gives you more targeted damage than Cold Embrace does. And Sylvanas has never been about single target damage dealing. And Cold Embrace does not synergize with the rest of her kit, just straight up.
That's true.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you though, Alex. I think Bakery underestimates it a little bit, but I also I'm probably in between where both of you stand. I think it's far less relevant than it was, but I don't think it's bad by any means. I think it'll still have a spot somewhere.
All right, and now finally we move on to the gloriousness, the glory that is level 20 Sylvanas, Dark Lady's Call. Whilst you tell us about this, Bakery, whilst you tell us about the greatness of this talent, I'm going to try and find a video of this talent. It's glorious. Go on.
Oh gosh, see, Steve gave me a GIF of it. I'll try and find it.
You've got a GIF?
See, Steve had one. I'll try and find it.
All right, okay.
Hit 20 win game. GG boys, well played. Yeah, I mean, it increases the move speed by 100%, which means you sit in your backline, you mind control anybody from the enemy team, and then they can't do anything. It's so ridiculous that you can run them, like, I'm not even kidding, you can run them from, like, fort to fort on the mid lane of Sky Temple in this duration.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. I don't have any words for this. It's ridiculous. And it's also very fun. But it's ridiculous.
It's not fun to play against, though. I think it's really, really, really toxic to play against. Like
a little bit.
You know, even at level 10, at level 10 it's no fun, but at 20 it's just like you just want to rage quit the game if you get mind controlled. It doesn't feel good in my eyes.
I agree. Like a level 20, it feels like so. I've always been a big proponent when looking at a lot of these online games of having as few anti-fun mechanics in a game as possible, and Dark Lady's Call feels really anti-fun. There's like, what do you do against that?
I mean, there is one good aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's finally a talent that we're gonna pick over Blink.
That is true.
Sorry.
That is true.
We did it. This is what we needed.
Is that...
You had to break the game to get something over Bolt.
No, obviously I'm kidding. Like, the fact that we pick it over Bolt is indicative of how broken this talent is. So...
Yeah. You didn't find it for me, Dread, no?
I can't find it. I don't know. It was in my Twitch chat for a while. I thought he sent it to me personally. I'll ask him for it.
It's alright. All good. But yeah, do you have anything to add to our lovely level 20 Dread in Dark Lady's Call? Or
I mean, you know, there's not much else to say. It's just sometimes Blizzard gets bored and they just go, hey, what if all those things we were talking about before, this is them right here, right? They're like, remember we wanted the game to be simple and we want the game to be fun and not anti-fun mechanics and things can't be broken and things like that. And then they're just like, what if we just did this for one patch? Just one patch, and this is it. They're just...
Well, yeah, they certainly made an interesting situation occur on the PTR so far, that's for sure. And with those thoughts on Dark Lady's Call to wrap out, we've covered every single little thing beyond some of the stuff that we didn't cover up at the top. But we've been going for 2 hours, boys, and I think we need to call it. We've done it. I am going to give you your outros, so we're going to go the same order. Dread, Bakery, Alex. Give us it, brothers.
We went over what I am. I don't know why I'm saying that. So you guys, shout out to Temple Storm. Big thanks for everything that they do for me. If you guys want to follow me or hear anything more about my life or in what I do content-wise and education-wise, Twitter is @TempoDread. Twitch is Dreadnought_Heroes. YouTube is currently Dreadnought's videos. And I think that's all I got.
So, as always, huge thanks to Team Dignitas. They're amazing, especially Meth and Odie. If you'd like to keep up to date with us and our upcoming trip to the Global Championship in Seoul, then you can follow me on Twitter, which is @BakeryHeroes. And that's about it.
I would like to say a huge thanks to Navi, and yeah, thanks for having me here.
Thank you very much for being on, Alex. Do appreciate it. Make sure to follow all these guys on Twitter, as well as myself, and also State of the Nexus on Twitter as well. I need to inform everybody that unfortunately we're going to have to skip out on next week's episode. I'm saying that, and Dread's almost learning that for the first time right now, I imagine. But it's kind of obvious because we have one of our members in Korea. So, Mr. Bakery, do okay for us over there.
I hope so.
In the same group as MVP Black, it'll be fine, don't worry. But other than that, make sure to follow myself on Twitter as well, and make sure to check out all the videos which are on youtube.com/Kaelaris for State of the Nexus, and also Lore of the Nexus, which is my cool little video series that I keep doing, and nobody here cares about lore other than me. So, thank you very much, boys. We shall see you next time for more State of the Nexus. Bye for now.